In capitalist America, you pay to be spied on.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is June 17th, 2020, episode 209. And this week, Deuce Boogaloo. And I am the artist formerly known as Basil.
And this is Gonz. Welcome to another episode of the podcast where we
It's Daddy Gonz, everybody.
Oh, yeah, Daddy. Yeah, trying to push it off onto me. Where we prove every episode that consciences are seared as with a hot iron. 1 Timothy 4:2. Every episode, every story. Not every story.
Watch out.
A lot of the stories.
Watch out. You're going to get burned.
Yes.
And Gonz, you and I were fighting a little bit of internet issues today. Seems on both sides of the world here. We have some a little bit slower uploads, a little bit slower downloads, but I think we're stable. But we're just gonna keep praying, keep looking up that things stay connected.
Come on, Elon, help us out. Help us stay connected.
My man.
Yeah.
So, okay. Any new personal news since the last episode on Monday, Gonzo?
We interrupt this broadcast to give you a brief update. By the end of this timely interruption, you will be thoroughly updated.
Ooh.
Yes, thoroughly updated. As you know, YouTube has not been very friendly to the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. Susan, you should be feeling the heat over there.
Susan!
So I published a video yesterday, and it was titled "Truthers Don't Get Played: Debunking George Floyd, George Floyd chest tattoo claims." And the whole point of the video was to debunk some of the claims, or people are walking on Twitter and on all the social media saying that, hey, look at the video, the screenshot. George Floyd doesn't have a chest tattoo, which I was like, okay. You don't have to. First off, he does have a chest tattoo. You can clearly see it if you watch the footage. So I was trying to say, like, hey, truthers, don't get carried away with all the crazy claims.
Yeah,
people make.
you were debunking a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I was debunking some of the more fringier stuff, and there's plenty of skepticism to go around with the whole Floyd situation. You don't need some of this stuff that's out there. And I actually said that it's probably like COINTELPRO stuff. If it's not just really bad research. It's probably like deliberate to make people look crazy. But of course, YouTube removed the video for violation of community guidelines, and they nailed me. Yeah, this is officially a warning. So this is the warning, and then I have 3 strikes, and then the channel gets deleted. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
you're trying to do some good in the world, man.
I know. I thought maybe this would be something to be on the side of YouTube to help them out, But in terms of what I apparently did, I apparently harassed, threatened, or cyberbullied. So I don't know. It was just, I have no idea.
They're just trying to find anything to bust you for, man.
It's just so ridiculous. And I actually messaged, you can appeal it. So I did. And in it, I just said, give me a timestamp. Give me a timestamp of exactly where I harassed, threatened, or cyberbullied anybody. And then, I'll back off, okay, if there's like clear evidence. But you can go watch the video. You can go to BitChute, where all the videos get backed up. And I'll drop a link in the chat if anyone's interested to my BitChute channel. And so you can watch it there and let me know where I violated the YouTube.
Where you bullied.
Where I bullied or harassed anybody. And again, anyway. I just wanted to get that off my chest because it was pretty frustrating.
Yeah,
that's
good.
One.
That's part of what we try to do around here too, is, take a look at what the conspiracy theories are. There seems to be a tendency just in the world, and I get it. It's part of the truth-seeking thing, is you look for where things don't line up, some inconsistencies, right? We had a lot of people sending us that one image that was going around comparing the different Derek Chauvin pictures.
Right.
And, honestly, we've spent a lot of time looking into forensic, photo comparisons and, looking at ears and noses and eyebrow ridges, things like that. Honestly, I don't think there's enough hard forensic comparison evidence to say that it wasn't Derek Chauvin. And also, why would it matter if it was or wasn't the exact, it's not like he's a known guy that I don't know. I don't want to get into it, but I wasn't quite convinced, but that doesn't change anything, whether or not he was who he wasn't.
Yeah. And some people in the chat are mentioning, and I mentioned it in a follow-up video that I made yesterday, but this is actually, I think this is YouTube actually harassing, threatening, and cyberbullying me.
Oh, touche.
So I should start, crying.
Start banning them. I ban you, YouTube.
I ban you. And I should start saying racism.
Yes.
Racists.
That's right. Because Gons, you are officially a person of color.
I'm a person of color, according to the webs. It now includes Asian Americans. So there you go. Yeah. I'm part of it. Go.
Canary Cry News Talk, produced and hosted by a person of color. So we should get some of that. Where's some of that extra attention?
Extra attention and the extra cash. Where's all that cash going?
I don't know. Where is that cash? You can't tell this, and people out there in TV land can't tell this, but I am frantically feeling around for my mouse charging cord because my mouse ran out of batteries.
Oh, no.
Right as we started the show. So, that's why I get paid the big bucks. Because I got to blindly feel around for my USB charging cord. Either that or I use this completely faulty virtual reality hand. That's what I'll have to use for now.
Okay.
But anyways, there you go. YouTubers. We get a lot of live viewers from YouTube. So as I mentioned in the pre-stream message, you're going to want to make sure to follow us at twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio or any of the other extra outlets we have, because you just never know what's going to happen over there on YouTube.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is all right. Getting worse. I feel the walls closing in on the YouTubes.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of which, you want to get into the show?
Let's do it.
Okay. Let's
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
All right. This is masslive.com. And here we go. The article's titled "Dog-Like Robots Now on Sale for $75,000. Buyers must agree to not arm them or use them as weapons."
You gotta sign the contract.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Flippy Update, we follow Flippy, who is the burger flipping robot put out by Muso Robotics. If you listen to this show, actually, you'll probably start getting an advertisement for Flippy on your Facebooks and stuff. It seems there's an algo now that our people are getting where they actually get advertisements for Flippy to invest. Now, we use Flippy, the burger flipping robot, as a proxy conversation to explore how robots are, taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. So, today we're talking about Spot Gons. This article reads, "You can now buy one of those unnerving animal-like robots you have seen on YouTube, so long as you don't plan to use it to harm or intimidate anyone." Boston Dynamics on Tuesday started selling its four-legged robot, Spot robot, online for just under $75,000 each. The agile robot can walk, climb stairs, and open doors, but people who buy them online must agree not to arm them or intentionally use them as weapons, amongst other conditions. Quote, "Spot is an amazing robot, but it is not certified safe for in-home use or intended for the use near children or others who may not appreciate the hazards associated with its operation," the terms and conditions state. Boston Dynamics has been developing its dexterous robots through decades of military-funded research. The Waltham, Massachusetts company is now finding commercial applications for them for the first time since it was founded founded in 1992. The company announced last year that it would begin mass production of Spot as a pilot project. It leased more than 150 of the robots to select customers for such uses as monitoring construction sites, inspecting... Oop, my whole world just disappeared. Uh-oh, the dangers of virtual reality. No, this is not a good time.
We've lost him in the void.
I'm completely lost in the void here, Gons.
All right,
so
I can finish the story for you.
Yeah, there's not much more there, but the interesting parts where you can now buy it, anybody can, for just under $75,000, as long as you promise not to give Spot a gun or have them intimidate people, which, for me, I think part of the whole reason of getting Spot is so that you can, have them protect your house. You can put up a beware of robot dog sign and, some guy jumps the fence and met with a robot dog with a nice big claw or something. I think that's the prime use for Spot, security dog. Release
the robot towns. Well, it's interesting because it says how you can't threaten anybody. But it even mentions in the article, in one recent pilot in Singapore, a Spot robot was deployed in a public park to broadcast pre-recorded messages asking people to maintain distance from one another to prevent spread of the coronavirus. And we had that video footage that we played a few episodes ago. I don't know. That was kind of threatening. It was walking around. It was
threatening me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Threatened. I felt very threatened by that robot dog walking through the park yelling at everybody.
So again, a double standard here. It's okay for the authorities to threaten the common citizen with it, but if you're going to own one, by no means can you threaten or arm it. Well, I can kind of understand, but...
What else is new? Yeah, but here's the real question. When they say arm, do they mean putting a literal robot arm on them? Because Spot, I think the default comes with a robot arm.
Like the ones we saw strapped out of the butt last week. It's gonna. Its tail is gonna be a flippy arm.
The appendage, the extra appendage. That's right.
Gosh.
So there you go. We can actually get a Spot now. I think it's about time we pull the trigger on that Kickstarter we've been talking about for 5 years.
$75K, not too bad. We can probably
I think
pull
we
it
could
off
put
for
together $75K
experimental purposes. The other footage that's been making the rounds with the Spot dog is the one where I think it's an older model, but it comes down the stairs and it steps on a banana peel and just completely wipes out.
It's a very funny one. I think that was an early version, I believe.
Very early version. I wonder if it's still...
I think they've taken care of the banana peel problem.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Canon on YouTube mentions, don't worry, there'll be $50,000 next year. That's how it works.
Yeah.
I'll wait till the Spot 2 get the price down a little bit. We can lose some of the extra features. Just give me the stripped down Spot.
You know what? We have an exit strategy here. You know what we do? We create Spot robot dog coats to make him more real dog-like,
Put a little sweater on him?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cute.
We can sell it to the people that can afford these things. If you can afford a $75,000 robot dog, you can afford our $5,000 hand-sewn coat made from bear skin or something.
Handmade in America.
Yeah,
keep your robot dog warm.
Yeah, throwing out business ideas for anybody interested.
I do want to mention real quick that the Twitch viewers are a little low today. I'm not sure what's going on there. Hopefully the notification went out to everybody. But if you're watching anywhere else, please consider at least opening up a tab to twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. Just leave it running. We need to get our numbers up over there so we can unlock some cool special perks that'll make the show a little bit better. Now, Gons, I popped an image into the document there.
Yeah.
I shared this on my Facebook, and I just wanted to have a called it moment, if you want to bring that up on the stream. And this was an advertisement that I got. Oh, gosh, let me see if I can make it bigger so I can actually read it. But this was from Nippon Airlines, or Air Nippon. All Nippon Airways. I believe it's Japanese airline company.
Sure.
And it says, in the work from home economy, avatars enable even the most hands-on professions to work remotely. Here's how. And it's a link to an article from All Nippon Airways Remote Capabilities for Hands-On Workers. And there it is. We've been talking about the work from home avatar, workplace thing where you'll no longer have to get off your couch to go work in a factory. You can control it with VR, controlling a robot halfway across the world. And here we are. We are in the future. And I got to say, called it years ago.
Yeah, sorry. I wasn't able to pull it up on the screen for people just because I guess you can't move around the image once you pasted it in there. If you would have sent it to me on Skype or through text, might have been easier to do, but...
Oh, nuts. Oh, yeah. Well, you can go to my Facebook. Just search Basil Rosewater. You can be my friend and see my cool advertisement. Yep. And I just, we just keep nailing it. So that's nice.
Yep, we called it.
That's always nice.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. So let's get into it. We got a bunch of COVID updates today. So we're gonna start it off. We're gonna start it off a little stinky.
COVID.
Let that flush down.
Toilet sound. This makes it exciting. All right.
Just gonna let that go all the way there.
Well, that's a long toilet.
It's a big toilet. Boston.com. Flushing the toilet may fling coronavirus aerosols all over.
Oh, geez.
Oh, man. Here's one more behavior to be hyper aware of in order to prevent coronavirus transmission. What you do after you use the toilet. Scientists have found that in addition to clearing out whatever business you've left behind, flushing a toilet can generate a cloud of aerosol droplets that rises nearly 3 feet. Those droplets may linger in the air long enough to be inhaled by a shared toilet's next user or land on the surfaces in the bathroom. This toilet plume isn't just gross. In simulations, always simulations, it can carry infectious coronavirus particles that are already present in the surrounding air or recently shed in a person's stool. The research published Tuesday in the journal Physics of Fluids. It must be
There's a whole journal called Physics of Fluids?
Must be a very interesting journal.
That's crazy.
Adds to growing evidence that the coronavirus can be passed not only through respiratory droplets, but also through virus-laden feces too. And while it remains unknown whether public or shared toilets are a common point of transmission of the virus, the research highlights the need during a pandemic to rethink some of the common spaces people share. Quote,
oh no, we got to rethink using the toilet. This is the new normal.
They're going to have UV zappers on the toilets now. The aerosol, this is a quote, the aerosol generated by toilets are something that we've kind of known about for a while, but many people have taken for granted, said Joshua L. Santarpia, a professor of pathology and microbiology at the University of Nebraska Medical Center who was not involved in the research. Quote, this study adds a lot of evidence that everyone needs in order to take better action.
Oh, we need this evidence.
Take better action. Typically, the coronavirus is most at home in cells in the lungs and upper respiratory tract, but studies have found it can also dock in cell receptors in the small intestines. Patients have been reported to experience diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting, among other symptoms. Let me skip this paragraph here. A computer simulation of the toilet flushing mechanism showed that when water pours into the toilet and generates a vortex, it displaces air in the bowl. These vortices move upward, and the centrifugal force pushes out about 6,000 tiny droplets and even tinier aerosol particles, depending on the number of inlets in the toilet. Flushing can force anywhere from 40% to 60% of the produced aerosol high above the seat. It's very alarming, said Ji Zhang Wang, who studied fluid dynamics at Yangzhou University and was a co-author of the study. And it says it's virtually impossible to keep bathrooms sanitized at all times, and sharing a toilet may be unavoidable for family members, even when one person is sick and isolating in a separate room at home, Wang says. And it goes on here, talks a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I think we get the point.
We get the idea. We get the idea.
I think we get the idea. Yeah, so new normal, nobody use restrooms anymore. You just don't flush. That's the key. You just don't flush.
Oh.
You'll save water, and that's why you got to follow the biblical concepts of using the restroom. You go outside of the camp. I really should just have that one committed to memory. It's very important.
I like Rocket Man Sean over on YouTube. Last I checked, poop is pretty hot and humid. How can Corona live there? That's a good point. It's a pretty warm atmosphere there, so it might, anyway.
Okay, moving on. Next story. This is from ktvu.com, Gons, and we got some more COVID updates here, some important ones.
COVID.
Okay, that's right. Here we go. KTVU.com. I believe that's the LA Fox channel, if I remember.
I don't think so.
The article is, or maybe Bay Area. United says passengers who don't wear masks will be put on, quote, internal travel restriction list.
Oh no.
Gosh, more lists, Gons, more lists. This is how it starts. They're going to keep an eye on you. The article reads, United Airlines announced Monday that it will strengthen mandatory mask policies to further hinder the spread of COVID-19 and help keep passengers and crew safe, according to a news release. The company said that while the majority of their passengers are complying with the mandatory policy starting on June 18th, that's tomorrow, any passenger that does not comply when aboard a United flight will be placed on an internal travel restriction list.
Ew.
Customers on the list will lose their travel privileges on United for a duration of time to be determined pending on comprehensive incident review, the news release states. You're going to lose your privileges, Gons, if you don't wear a mask. Quote, every reputable health institution says wearing a mask is one of the most effective things people can do to protect others from contracting COVID-19, especially in places like an aircraft where social distancing is a challenge, said United's chief customer officer, Toby Engqvist. Couple things. CDC says you don't need to wear a mask unless you already have COVID or are a healthcare worker or someone like that. So not every reputable health institution, unless, I don't know, are they calling CDC disreputable? I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. And also, airplane companies, if you'd stop squeezing us in like sardines and actually give us some leg room, maybe you could achieve some social distancing. I think this is the revolution we really need to put on the list of revolutions. We need to force the hand of the aircraft companies to give us some dang leg room, Gons. Because I got to squish up. I almost literally have to be in the fetal position to fit in a regular airplane seat. I think they're down
giving
to
away secrets of your height, your Nephilim height there, 7'11".
That 7 inches of leg room that they give us just isn't enough. All right. Yeah. The article continues, quote, we have been requiring our customers to wear masks on board United aircraft since May 4th, and we have been pleased that the overwhelming majority of passengers readily comply with our policy. Today's comply. Today's announcement
that they comply.
Yes, we are so pleased. Today's announcement is an unmistakable signal that we're prepared to take serious steps if necessary to protect our customers and crew, Engqvist said. Under the new policy, if flight attendants notice or are informed snitches of a customer on board who is not wearing a face covering and that passenger does not fall within an exception, flight attendants are to notify the customer of the airline's policies. They will also offer a mask if needed. Quote, if the customer continues to be non-compliant, flight attendants will do their best to de-escalate the situation. So they are escalating the situation and then doing their best to de-escalate the situation. A little Hegelian dialectic there, just going on right on your airplane. Flight attendants will do their best to de-escalate the situation from those violent rebels not wearing a mask. Again, inform the customer of the United's policy and provide the passenger with an in-flight mask policy reminder card. You need a reminder card. The statement reads.
What are we supposed to? Oh, yeah. Oh, this card in my pocket.
Comply. Thank you for the card.
To comply.
Yes. It's just a card that says obey on it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Continues, U.S. airlines are very serious about requiring face coverings on their flights. Carriers are stepping up enforcement of face coverings and implementing substantial consequences for those who do not comply with the rules, said A4A President and CEO Nicholas E. Kallio. Quote, face coverings are one of several public health measures recommended by the CDC. No, it's not. As an important layer of protection for passengers and customer-facing employees. A simple conversation can produce thousands of oral fluid droplets that can be dispersed to a fairly large radius and can linger in the air for up to 14 minutes, and in some instances, even longer. Remember at the beginning of all this, they said it could linger in the air for like, 3 hours or something?
Yeah.
We're down to 14 minutes. So coronavirus is forgetting how to fly, I think, here. Researchers suggested in a recent study that may help answer key questions regarding the high transmissibility of the novel coronavirus. According to the report, which was first published in peer-reviewed journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in May, it is commonly known that respiratory viruses such as COVID-19 can spread through droplets that are produced from coughing or sneezing. With social distancing still the best known weapon for containing the virus, several studies have been conducted regarding the transmission of respiratory droplets, et cetera, et cetera. Just some science jargon at the end there that we're all aware of. It's been smashed into our brains for 4 months now, something like that.
Yeah.
So there you go, Gons. You're gonna get put on a list, buddy. Put on your mask.
If we combine this story with the last story, the airplane bathrooms, just a tube of Corona.
They might as well just open up a hidden trap door and launch you out the bottom of the plane. You're done for.
Okay, yeah, it's I don't know, but the last time I went to an airport, you know how you have different gates, right? You got all these gates for airplanes. All but one at this particular airport I was at. There was like 20 or 25 gates, something like that. Literally 22 or 23 of them was United. So they're going to,
okay.
I know they have kind of a monopoly in terms of, maybe not a monopoly.
What airport? Depends what airport you're talking about.
Orange County. Orange County. It was John Wayne Airport, I think.
John Wayne, yes.
Yeah, it was all United.
Big United hub there.
There was like one Alaskan Air and one Southwest. And, all the people are hanging out there because everybody hates United. But yeah, I don't know. I hope all the airlines don't follow suit with this type of thing. Although it seems like they throw around, the CDC appeal to authority just really, I don't know, loosely. But it says they released a guideline on June 12th, which is more recent. So maybe they updated their stuff.
Yeah, to be fair, I have not checked since the 12th. But before that, I read it right on the show there.
Yeah.
They were very clear about who wears a mask and who doesn't. So anyways, what else you got?
We have, is it another? Oh, yeah, we got another COVID one. COVID. Another FoxBusiness.com article here. Coronavirus speeds up American suppliers' exodus from China. It's about time.
Okay. Yeah.
It says here, the COVID-19 pandemic is giving fresh energy to corporate plans to move supply chains out of China, according to a new survey. 76% of finance chiefs whose companies have manufactured in China indicated in a survey by Swiss lender UBS that the pandemic has reinforced their company's goal of moving at least some of that production elsewhere. 34% of the more than 450 executives surveyed represent companies with manufacturing in China. US-based firms weren't the only ones looking to move. 85% of North Asian firms And 60% of Chinese manufacturers also said they were planning to move at least some production from the mainland, where COVID-19 was first identified late last year. Together, the three surveys found up to 30%, or $750 billion of China's $2.5 trillion of exports might be relocated. Quote, there could be a sizable rebalance as China's share of world exports has jumped 10 percentage points since the early 2000s to about 14%, much higher than the US, Germany, and Japan, wrote UBS's Global Macro Strategy team led by Keith Parker. The COVID-19 pandemic originated in Wuhan, China, has infected more than 8 million people, ravaged supply chains.
That's conspiracy theory.
Yeah. And it says here, the outbreak has led to an increased scrutiny of America's reliance on China for not only key medical supplies, but production capacity in general. We know about this. Of the firms surveyed, 92% of healthcare companies and 89% of consumer staple firms have already moved capacity out of China or are planning to do so. Technology, 80%, and consumer discretionary, 76% producers were also more likely to leave than industrial, 69%, and materials, 57% manufacturers.
That's a lot of percent.
That's a lot, yeah. And I understand, like, it's for 69% of industrial and over half of materials. That's huge, huge. Meanwhile, 82% of U.S. firms surveyed said they were looking to bring production home, while also considering Canada, 38%, Japan, 29%, and Mexico, 23%. Japan, which has the most preferred destination for North Asian and Chinese companies, will be the biggest beneficiary from a supply chain exodus, followed by Vietnam and the U.S., according to UBS. And it goes on here. It's, it's business, so it's a lot of the tax information and stuff like that. But
just business.
It just seems this is probably happening for a while now. So
yeah,
just kind of a summary.
Interesting. It's interesting because of the theory that the fact that the coronavirus was originated in China, and there's a theory that China at the very least did not do much to stop the spread because to sabotage the US in some way. If that was the plan, it seems to be backfiring quite a bit. That's a lot of people pulling business out of China. Yeah. Which of course, there's enough business in China they can afford to lose some, but they're certainly not going to be happy about it.
There's also the flip side of the conspiracy theory. I want to clearly state theory that this was a US-based plant in China to bring home production,
Yes, if you listen to the CCP, then COVID was created by the United States in order to bring down China, in which case, apparently, that happens to be working pretty good.
Yeah.
So who knows
Trust
what
the plan.
Trust the plan. Oh, jeez. Have you been reading Q again, Gonzo?
No, I haven't. No. I just wanted to throw that in there because it's I know I gotta offend some people. I apologize if I offended you to all the Q-ites out there.
Speaking of China, I got something for you. Let's hit that China again.
Chinese news!
That's right, some Chinese news. Now, of course, we're going to lean a little bit to the right here with express.co.uk. World War III, India slaughters five Chinese soldiers in bloody massacre. Border tensions erupt. Wow, there's some inflammatory language there. Article reads, there were losses on both sides of the battle as one of the Indian Army's officers and two soldiers were killed in a violent face-off at Galwan Valley, one of the 4 clash points in the eastern Ladakh sector. These are the first reported casualties in decades to result from a clash between the nuclear-armed Asian giants. China has not yet confirmed the deaths or numbers of injured. India's army said on Tuesday senior military officials from both sides were meeting in a desperate bid to calm tensions. The Indian Army statement said, quote, senior military officials of the two sides are currently meeting at the venue to defuse the situation. Talks to pull back hundreds of troops deployed in the remote region have been held over the last 10 days, but no breakthrough had emerged. Indian government sources said no shots were fired, but a physical fight broke out between the two sides, with soldiers using batons and throwing stones, which resulted in the casualties. Whoa, what?
Yeah.
The Indian Army confirmed there had been an incident on Monday and both sides had suffered casualties. The Army said, quote, during the de-escalation process underway in the Galwan Valley, a violent face-off took place yesterday night with casualties on both sides. During the de-escalation process, we got in a bar fight and killed a bunch of people. Yeah. That is some fancy footwork there with the PR people. Quote, the loss of lives on the Indian side include an officer and two soldiers. Senior military officials of the two sides are currently meeting at the venue to defuse the situation. Sources said the officer who died was a colonel rank. Let's see. But mystery surrounds the situation after Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lihan said on Tuesday he was not aware of any incident on the border with India after the Indian Army.
These politicians, man, why are they always the last ones to know?
No, I'm not aware. I haven't heard a thing. Oh, somebody died? Oh, I don't know. A bar fight between our two armies? Weird. Hu Zhijin, editor-in-chief of China's Global Times newspaper, tweeted, quote, based on what I know, Chinese side also suffered casualties in the Galwan Valley physical clash. He then sent a chilling warning to India, adding, quote, I want to tell the Indian side, don't be arrogant and misread China's restraint as being weak. China doesn't want to have a clash with India, but we don't fear it. No fear. The Global Times is published by the People's Daily, the official newspaper of Chinese ruling Communist Party, so it's, propaganda. Right. Responding to the news, retired U.S. Army Colonel Lawrence Sellin tweeted, telling China not to push India. Okay, a lot of tweets going back and forth. Anyways, the article warfare. Is actually... What?
It's the modern warfare now. Just tweets.
Yes, right. Geopolitical decisions being made over tweet storms. And the article goes on quite a bit. I don't know if you had anything
I don't think I had anything
highlighted
else
there that was interesting to you.
Not much, other than they kept using the phrase Asian giants.
Yes.
Confirming my theory that the Nephilim are present in China.
Yeah, I like how the article is saying, that starts out the headline, World War III.
Yeah. Well,
India slaughters 5 Chinese soldiers. And World War III, is starting with a fist fight between two countries. It's
a false flag.
Yes.
But there's a little chart here at the bottom that shows the largest militaries in the world. And as of 2019, military manpower, China with 2,183,000 is number 1. India is number 2 with 1,362,500, just followed by US and North Korea. So I think that's why the World War III concept is the two biggest military manpower armies going at it, slapping each other. Well, not slapping each other, but we shouldn't be insensitive, Basil. People died. People were killed here.
It's not cool. People died, but we're more making fun of this article than anything else. But I mean, you make a good point. It seriously is not. It's not serious when India and China have clashes like this. Apparently, this happens every so often.
Right.
I might need to educate myself a little bit more on that geopolitical situation. I actually did not know that there were such tensions between India and China. I know that with the Tibet thing was a little shaky. I know they're both kind of involved in that. Fun fact. There is like a 4-mile stretch of border that China shares with Afghanistan. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. And I think if you look at a map, India and China are, pretty much right next. They're split by Nepal, and there's, a couple little small countries in between. But yeah, I mean, these are huge populations. If they get into full on, obviously this is, the headline is pretty sensational. It's probably not going to start some kind of crazy nation versus nation conflict, but it might stir some emotions or whatever. And but it's just just got to keep an eye on some of the things going on out there in the world, especially with these huge powers, because you're not going to hear about it, really on your local news or even maybe American conservative alternative news. You're probably not going to hear too much of this type of information.
No, well, it's a special kind of perspective that Americans have. We can't imagine World War III breaking out without us being involved.
Yeah. Hey, wait a minute here.
Hey, don't Americans make us choose sides. We're supposed to be in World War III, not you. Just for a little background here, the article does give a little bit of a background. It says the two sides have been locked in a standoff in the Galwan Valley in western Himalayas for weeks, with both accusing each other of trespassing into the other's territory.
Yeah.
Stay off my lawn. India and China fought a brief border war in 1962 and have not been unable to settle their border dispute despite talks spread over 2 decades.
Good double negative there.
Have not been unable, yeah. Border guards have had skirmishes, even fist fights when patrols have confronted each other, but there has been no loss of life for more than 30 years. So, wow, yeah, that's a big deal. Some actual loss of life for the first time in 30 years.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's probably, again, that's probably why the World War III, although it's just such a, I don't know. I don't know that World War III is going to break out over this particular issue.
You never know, Gonzo.
But you never know.
You never know. But there you go. Tensions rising over there between China and India.
Yeah. Well, we're going to finish out one more story about China before we take a quick break, a Twitch break. But if I'm going to have to root for China or India, I'm going with India. I'm going to go with Dalsim. Remember Street Fighter? Because China, man, they're creepy.
Welcome to Chinese News!
That's racist, man.
'Cause I'm DNA.
And this is actually New York Times, but I forgot that I can't read it, so I had this backup article here, which is basically the New York Times article, which, by the way, has this like pretty nifty looking DNA scroll thing happening. If anybody watching on the screens, but this is BD News 24. This is just publishing the New York Times article. China collects DNA from tens of millions using U.S. gear. And it says here, the police in China are collecting blood samples from men and boys from across the country to build a genetic map of its roughly 700 million males, giving authorities a powerful new tool for their emerging high-tech surveillance state. They have swept across the country since late 2017 to collect enough samples to build a vast DNA database, according to a new study published on Wednesday by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, a research organization based on documents also reviewed by the New York Times. With this database, authorities would be able to track down a man's male relatives using only that man's blood, saliva, or other genetic material. The U.S. company Thermo Fisher is helping. Thermo Fisher, what are you doing? The Massachusetts company has sold testing kits to Chinese police tailored to their specifications. American lawmakers have criticized Thermo Fisher for selling equipment to Chinese authorities, but the company has defended its business. The project is a major escalation of China's efforts to use genetics to control its people, which had been focused on tracking ethnic minorities and other more targeted groups. It would also add to a growing sophisticated surveillance net that the police are deploying across the country, one that increasingly includes advanced cameras, facial recognition systems, and artificial intelligence. The police say they need a database to catch criminals and that donors consent to handing over their DNA. Some officials within China, as well as human rights groups outside its borders, warn that a national DNA database could invade privacy and tempt officials to punish the relatives of dissidents and activists. Rights activists argue that the collection is being done without consent because citizens living in an authoritarian state have virtually no right to refuse. Already, the program is running into an unusual amount of opposition in China. quote, the ability of the authorities to discover who is most intimately related to whom, given the context of the punishment of entire families as a result of one person's activism, is going to have a chilling effect on society as a whole, said Maya Wang, Chinese researcher for Human Rights Watch. The campaign even involves schools. In one southern coastal town in China, young boys offered up their tiny fingers to a police officer with a needle about 230 miles to the north. Officers went from table to table taking blood from schoolboys while girls watched quizzically. Zhan Hualing, 31, gave a blood sample too. He had no choice. Authorities told Jiang, a computer engineer from a rural county in northern China, that, quote, if blood wasn't collected, we would be listed as a black household. It was racist.
What?
He said, he said last year, and it would deprive him and his family of benefits like the right to travel and go to a hospital. That's pretty intense. Tracking China's males, Chinese authorities are collecting DNA samples from men and boys for one simple reason. They commit more crimes, statistics show. The impetus for the campaign can be traced back to a crime spree in the northern Chinese region of Inner Mongolia. For nearly 3 decades, the police there investigated the rapes and murders of 11 women and girls, one as young as 8. They collected 230,000 fingerprints and sifted through more than 100,000 DNA samples. They offered a $28,000 reward. Then, in 2016, they arrested a man on unrelated bribery charges, according to the state news media. Analyzing his genes, they found he was related to a person who had left his DNA at site of a 2005 killing of one of the women. That person, Gao Chengyang, confessed to the crimes and was executed.
Ooh.
Gao's capture spurred the state media to call for the creation of national database of male DNA. The police in Henan province showed it was possible after amassing samples from 5.3 million men, or roughly 10% of the province's male population. It's between 2014 and 2016. In November 2017, the Ministry of Public Security, which controls the police, unveiled plans for a national database. China already holds the world's largest trove of genetic material, totaling 80 million profiles, according to state media, but earlier DNA gathering efforts were often more focused. Officials targeted criminal suspects or groups they considered potentially destabilizing, like migrant workers in certain neighborhoods. The police have also gathered DNA from ethnic minority groups like the Uyghurs as a way to tighten the Communist Party's control over them. The effort to compile a national male database broadens those efforts, says Emil Dirks, an author of the report from the Australian Institute and a PhD candidate in the Department of Political Science at the University of Toronto. Quote, we are seeing the expansion of those models to the rest of China in an aggressive way that I don't think we've seen before, Dirks said. In the report released by the Australian Institute, it is estimated that authorities aim to collect DNA samples from 35 million to 70 million men and boys, roughly 5 to 10% of China's male population. They do not need to sample every male because one person's DNA sample can unlock the genetic identity of male relatives.
See, and that's the problem right there.
Yeah.
That's what we've been saying about the DNA collection for a while, is the problem is you don't need everybody's DNA. You just need enough where you can pinpoint everybody related to them.
Right.
Fact Checker Bot, we're so thankful for Fact Checker Bot in Twitch here, wants to remind you, Gons, that it's not just racist, it's sexist and racist.
Oh, you're right. Yes, true. Anti-male. When the Times tried to fax questions about the database to the Ministry of Public Security, fax? They're using fax over there in China? They have the most sophisticated surveillance apparatus, but they're using fax machines still? Anyway, An employee said it could not accept them without permission from a senior official. Local officials often publicly announce the results of their sampling. In Dongguan County in the Guangxi region, the police said they had collected more than 10,800 samples, covering nearly 10% of male population. In Yijun County in Shanxi province, the police said it had collected more than 11,700 samples, or 1/4. To estimate the project's ambitions, the Australian Institute looked at sampling rates in 10 counties and districts, then studied purchase orders for DNA test kits from 16 more jurisdictions.
Yeah, I think we get it. Is there
I think there was it goes into some stuff.
Long, I think
there's a section here about how, let me just read this part here. Although the Chinese authorities are still building their database, its consent are already being used to ramp up surveillance. In March, officials in Guangdong Township in southwestern Sichuan province said the male blood samples they had collected would be used to bolster the local Sharp Eyes project, according to a government notice found by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. The project is a major government surveillance program that encourages people in the countryside to report on their neighbors.
Snitches get stitches.
Ank Bioengineering, a biotech company based in eastern Anhui province, is using the male DNA database to build a DNA, this is a quote, DNA Skynet, according to Hu Bangjun, a spokesman for the company. Skynet is China's policing system that combines video surveillance and big data. Although, isn't Skynet from Terminator?
Terminator.
Yeah. But the National Male DNA collection program is running into an unusual amount of opposition in China. Even the compliant Chinese are starting to say, like, no. Generally, Chinese citizens have accepted intrusions by the central government into their internet use and other facets of life, but DNA collection is not regulated under Chinese law. And officials worry that the public would react negatively to a broad database containing their genetic secrets and family ties. And actually, I was trying to find this. This is kind of a long article, but there's a section at the end here. And I'm sorry, I'm just kind of going on and on. But there's some. Well, we kind of know about it already, but it says here in an interview, Jiang said he had paid a hospital in Beijing to collect his samples and mailed them. He was told, okay, so he basically, okay, well, let me just read this last part here. This is one of the people that they're quoting here. In quote, in some cases, your blood and saliva, which was collected in advance, can be put at the crime scene later, Lee said. Quote, you're not there, but your DNA might be on the scene. This is what I'm worried about, the possibility of being framed by the government. So,
well, I mean, is not unheard of in China. And of course, having that's one of the biggest risks of having your DNA cataloged by the government is, is kind of in the same way that they'll use tax laws to crack down on people in the U.S. who they want to silence or whatever, or just punish. If they have a whole database filled with your DNA, they can just choose anybody that they want to frame, which again sounds crazy, but would not be unheard of considering the Chinese Communist Party over there and the types of things that they've been doing, especially cracking down on things like the Hong Kong protest, stuff like that. And, one thing that's fallen out of the news is the Hong Kong protests. They've been protesting for, I think, over a year now, specifically about the interaction of criminal investigations and extradition and things like that from Hong Kong to mainland China, and the people, the capitalist Hong Kong versus the communist China, and the tightening of the communist grip over Hong Kong. Those Hong Kong protests still going on, by the way. Haven't heard much about it recently, though.
Well, because our own protests in America broke out, so kind of distracted. But this is it's troubling because obviously it's troubling in China, but if we're following the pattern of what's happened to the United States based on what China was doing, this is coming to the U.S. for sure. If not already, with some of these companies like what are those, the big DNA
the
companies,
23andMe and
23andMe, right?
Where but it's still voluntary. We pay to get our DNA taken over here. That's in capitalist America. You pay to be spied on,
right? But that kind of database can easily be either hacked or who knows?
Oh, of course. Security issues.
And certainly that type of framing. And think about how much easier it would be for, groups like the FBI who work on framing people to make them look like domestic terrorists. It'd be so much easier, so much cheaper to just plant some DNA.
Gons. It's not framing. It's entrapment.
Entrapment. You're right. Okay. Sorry. Entrapment.
They don't frame anybody. They just convince people to commit crimes.
Right. Well, okay. I'm just going to call it framing. But yeah, it would be so much easier if they're like, hey, see, this person's DNA was over at this, I don't know, munitions or explosive factory or whatever it is. So anyway, troubling stuff.
Yeah. Well, luckily we don't have to worry about that here.
Yet.
Well, Gons, on that note, let's take a quick little break. Don't go anywhere, anybody. Don't go anywhere, anybody. After the break, the very quick break where we're going to thank some of our Twitch followers and others, we're going to be talking about the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. There's some things going on there you definitely don't want to miss, so stick around. But first, Gons, let's take a break.
It's break time!
Come on, take a break. Thank you, everybody, for watching today. And we especially want to thank some of our new Twitch followers. I was reading through the list, the new Twitch follower list. Right. There's some really funny ones. So thank you guys so much for following on Twitch. As we've been talking about the past few episodes, YouTube has not been very kind to Gons or I recently. And there is always the possibility that the streams will stop arriving there on YouTube. So if you have not done it yet, just as a backup plan, you should head to twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. Follow us there, turn on notifications so you can get the show 3 times a week. Gons, if you don't mind throwing that link in the chat there for us. And after you do that, get your dinger ready. Sounds like the dinger's dinged.
It is ready.
Okay. Good. And I will go through and thank some new followers. First of all, well, let me reload, see if there's any people. I want to make sure we get everybody. Here we go. I want to start with Lady Liberty 17. Thank you very much, Lady Liberty. Next, we've got Elizabeth Russell. Thanks, Elizabeth Russell, following us on Twitch. Cephas 74. You Need God 90. Thank you. I like it. Thank you for the follow. By Russ 2020. Oh, Gons, we've got another celebrity following us today. Dr. Deborah Burks follows us on Twitch now.
Fantastic.
I know. I love it. All the people in charge are knowing now where to come to get their news. Thank you, Dr. Deborah Burks, following the show. Jason 2671. Solid Snakes BFF. Very good. We got a gamer in town here. Oh my gosh. I'm going to just take a running start at this one. We'll see where it goes. Designated Dan for life. There we go. Cool. You're Dan for life. You've been designated. We've got Laura Cotton. Thanks, Laura Cotton. We got Mama Brick C19. We got Jack Be Quick. Snowy Day 7. Wake up, normies. Thank you. Wake up, normies. Good name. Dave. What? Normie. What? Play that again? Normie. Wow, that's a new one. I haven't heard that one.
There's this one too. I cut out the profanity, so we can work with it here. But here's this one. Normies. Wow. I don't know if I ever want to hear that one again. That scared me. Normies. Dave Riccio 777. Dr. Lopsop. This one's good. We got Daddy Gil Bates. Daddy Gil Bates following us. Thank you very much. Like Qdus. Oh, and here's a good one. Mama Fauci. Oh, Mama Fauci.
We got Daddy Fauci and we got Mama Fauci.
Oh, we got the whole Fauci. Yeah. Okay.
We need Baby Fauci next. All right, Grumble Butts. Thank you, Grumble Butts. And a couple more here. Denny Wop. And Sam Tabor 457. Thank you very much to our new Twitch followers, you guys are the best. And for those of you watching on Twitch, you should watch on Twitch because it helps us get those numbers up, helps us hit some goals. It's going to unlock some very cool tools. And with YouTube demonetizing everybody's Facebook channels, YouTube channels, Gonz's YouTube, Face Like the Sun, has recently been demonetized, and they got a pretty happy trigger finger on the censorship button over there on yours. Even when you're trying to set crazy conspiracy theories straight, Gonz, they still got to shut you up as a person of color, and they're censoring you over there.
I know.
I
should make a bigger deal about that. I should be like, hey, again, I should just call out Susan Wojcicki for being racist.
That's right.
Or practicing her white supremacy on channels like mine.
The voices of people of color.
Silencing the minority.
But they're not doing that over here.
I was looking up the talk shows and podcast section of Twitch.
Yes.
And we're competing against the Star Trek live stream marathon.
Yes.
So
I don't know if that's a Star Trek sanctioned event, but there's 16,000 viewers watching Star Trek over on Twitch there. That seems like a copyright violation waiting to happen, but who knows? Maybe that's Jean-Luc Picard himself. Maybe that's his Twitch channel.
Maybe.
So we got to get them to raid us. That'll be the next step. Anybody over there at the Star Trek United Twitch stream, just send everybody our way and get the truth out there.
Right.
Okay. Anything else you want to do for this break? Are you good?
I think I'm good. Let's get into some Chaz news.
Back to business.
Or is it Chap news? I don't even know anymore.
Get in the zone. Capitol Hill Auto Zone. Chaz stinks.
Okay, for those who are living under a rock, Chaz, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone is the police-free, government-free commune area that has been taken over or established over there in Seattle, the Capitol Hill District. We've been talking about it for a few episodes, as has everybody in the world. But I'm here reading from nationalfile.com. I don't know anything about this outlet, so I might have to take a look. But the article is titled, Video, Costumed Superheroes Deployed in Place of Police within Chaz. So, of course, we had Raz the rapper, being colloquially called a warlord, filling the vacuum of power there, trying to keep the peace. But Raz better watch out, because now we have some actual costumed superheroes. And the article reads, a team of vigilantes who identify both as the Seattle superheroes and as non-binary has emerged. What's that?
I just say that I don't know that was necessary to be a superhero, but okay.
Well, it's important. It's an important detail for these superheroes, okay? They're both Seattle superheroes and non-binary. They've emerged in the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in riot-ravaged Seattle, Washington. Okay, I'm assuming we're leaning a little bit right here on this story, but let's figure it out. Governed by nothing but a bizarre conflict reduction advisory council and a rogue warlord, the Chaz has quickly descended into chaos. At night, the zone is plagued by addiction, crime, and violence.
Plagued by addiction?
Okay. All right. So we know where we're coming from with this article, but let's keep going. The NOQ report summarizes reporting by conservative journalist Jack Pasibic on the rapidly deteriorating situation within the Chaz. Oh, so this is your buddy Pasibic, or as Gonz likes to call him, Pusaya Boyak.
Poso Bayek.
I burned you in front of everybody.
Yeah, that's a weak burn. Weak burn.
Yeah. Here's a quote
Daddy
from
Basil.
Oh no. Here's a quote from Pasibic. According to mainstream media, the Chaz is more like a version of Coachella with live music and street art, a truly festive atmosphere. As Pasibic reported, this is mostly true during the day when mainstream media's cameras are rolling. At night, it's completely different story. But at night, okay, great, cool writing. At night, it's completely different story. But at night, the narrative is difficult to capture.
I read this exact, we literally read this article yesterday, I think, or the last episode. So
we did. This is a quote from that last article. So we're continuing the genealogy here of reporting, conservative reporting. Oh man, where was I? As Pacific reported, this is mostly true during the day when mainstream media's cameras are rolling. At night, it's completely different story. But at night, the narrative is difficult to capture because anyone with a camera out is instantly mobbed by people asking questions and attempting to block off filming. Like Democrats in the mainstream media, many living in the Chaz do not want the truth getting out. Horrible situations were revealed throughout the journalist's final night in Seattle, a break-in and an attempted arson of a local business owner. An accused thief attacked and searched before being further assaulted. Rampant drug use, unspeakable sanitation issues, quote, medics who shield assaults rather than treat the assaulted. These are just some of the things revealed by Pacific in his flurry of videos posted to Twitter and live streamed from Periscope. Given the Chaz's ban on police, law enforcement appears to have taken a particularly peculiar form within the zone. 3 individuals in brightly colored costumes emerged on Sunday night, identifying as the Seattle Superheroes. Very creative name. The vigilantes introduced themselves to reporters as Red Ranger, Spirit Fox, and Justin Service.
They sound like...
I feel like the last guy didn't quite put enough energy into his cool name.
It sounds like these guys could be...
Spirit Fox, and I'm Justin. At your service.
No, he's just in service. Get it?
What does that even mean? Who says that?
He's just serving. That's all he's doing. He's just in service.
Good.
I get you, bro. Or
quote,
bro,
yes, Justin Service is your favorite. It's one of those things where, like, depending on who your favorite Seattle superhero is, says a lot about your personality.
Yeah. I was going to say bro, but maybe because they identified as non-binary, maybe it's...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't make that mistake. Red Ranger, Spirit Fox, and Justin Service, Gonz's favorite. Quote, we patrol around, keep people safe, that kind of thing, Red Ranger told a reporter. 2 of the vigilantes, Red Ranger and Spirit Fox.
Look at this. Hold on. Sorry. I'm playing some video of them.
Okay.
In the background while you go here. Sorry, go ahead.
2 of the vigilantes, Red Ranger and Spirit Fox, previously gave an interview in 2018 during the far-left May Day demonstrations, along with a 4th vigilante, El Caballero. Quote, usually we do a safety patrol nocturnally, Red Ranger stated then. Their Twitter account mostly features tweets about DC, Marvel, and local comic book stores in the city. The rise of these untrained... They're untrained. The rise of these untrained masked vigilantes as a replacement for law enforcement further highlights the need for a restoration of law and order in Antifa-occupied Seattle. So there you go. We got some vigilantes on the scene. They got their cool names, their cool outfits. What did that video show, Gonz? Anything interesting?
They're just talking. I haven't really heard what they say. It's just them standing there and...
Yeah. Well, it's fun. It's a fun way to express yourself. I wonder if they've actually stopped any crime. That would be good to know. There might be, it's kind of a perfect setup for a real superhero story. I mean, you've got the breakdown of law and order. The cops aren't allowed in there. And so a warlord takes over and starts, harassing and pestering people, threatening them with guns. And then that's when Red Ranger, Spirit Fox, and Justin need to come in and restore justice, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's a perfect opportunity. I did see during the protests and some of the more violent protests and riots and stuff. There was some footage going around of a guy dressed as Batman, just like walking into the whole protest situation.
That's a good way to get kicked by somebody.
Kicked or
get a big wedgie. Nerd.
What are you, against nerds now?
I love nerds.
Okay.
And I'm caring for Batman. I don't want him to get a wedgie walking around.
I think he already has. He's like his suit gives him a wedgie, doesn't it?
That's why he has that armor, that good butt armor. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, I think this, for some reason, I was not actually surprised by this happening.
No, I just think it's fantastic that they're.
I
would be
so,
curious.
too.
I want to see them try to, come in and help out. I think everybody involved would kind of.
Yeah.
What? Everybody would stop.
I gotta say, everybody who's seen this show knows I have very complex views about the taking of justice into the hands of civilians. But you know what? I think, Chaz ultimately being an experiment, I think you had to try this out. You got to try out the superhero experiment.
If anything,
I really pray for their safety. I think if the Seattle superheroes come in contact with Raz and there's some sort of disagreement, I don't think that would turn out well for the Seattle superheroes. But I'll just hope that they focus on taking photo ops and things like that.
Well, if anything, it'll take the attention away. Hopefully, if let's say a group of folks are beating up on a business or trying to take down or whatever it is, these guys show up, all that attention is going to go off whoever the victim is. They're going to go after these guys in the suit and the armor here. So,
oh yeah, if a little fight breaks out and somebody shows up in a leotard and some hockey armor, they're the first ones to get picked on.
It does look like they just kind of threw together whatever they had going on. Football pads.
Incomplete in the chat room says, as a cosplayer, I'm offended. I think there's a lot of reasons to be offended. And yeah, somebody needs to help these guys out with the costumes a little bit. But best of luck to you, Seattle superheroes. I hope you bring the peace. It's
like any kind of superhero story. The first iteration of their outfit is always very janky, and then you always have that reveal moment where like they have the upgraded armor.
Right. You got to start out. You got to start out with the homemade costume and then a benefactor comes around and pays for your tech upgrades. I get it. We caught the Seattle superheroes at a weird time. This time next year, they'll be showing up in Kevlar and Batmobiles.
If it's not a copyright infringement. All right, we got another Chaz Stanks update.
In the zone, Capitol Hill Auto Zone. Chaz Stanks.
Now, this is a town hall article that I found. I guess it's an opinion piece or something.
Yeah, town hall is a conservative.
Okay, so it is conservative. So it had to be kind of satirical, or not satirical per se, but like sarcastic. I couldn't tell reading it, but I'm gonna read it anyway because it's kind of it's interesting. A warning to Trump and Republicans: leave the nation of Chaz Chop alone. It says here, I'm going to make the words bigger here. This is a letter to the people of Chaz. To the good people of Chaz, greetings and salutations, my lefty friends. I'm going to help you build your experimental new revolutionary nation now that you have your borders and armed militia right in the middle of Seattle. Chaz is the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone made up of several blocks of Seattle that were commandeered by protesters when the cops were told to pull back and let the people, quote unquote, just loot what they wanted and run their own lives. Quote, "You are now leaving the USA," said a sign at the border of Chaz. Some of the citizens of Chaz don't like the name and want it changed to CHOP, Capitol Hill Occupied Protest. I'm confused, and so are they. But the Chapitistas, or the Chazians, do have a collective farm, armed guards, snacks, art projects, and most likely poetry readings of approved text. And they reportedly even have a tax on people and remaining businesses to help with operations, but that just might be royalist propaganda. Building a new nation isn't easy, my Chazian friends, but to prove I support true diversity, I'll write you your constitution, spelled with a K. So you may organize yourselves from your collective farms to your appropriate sports activities and even how best to wear your underwear. So I guess it's a mocking of them. Is that what's going on?
This is a conservative mocking open letter.
If you follow the Constitution of Chaz Chop, you'll at least be sure to keep your plants alive so you won't go hungry and begin cannibalizing the weak, whom you care so much. Care so much about.
Come on, let's go.
The first article of the Constitution specifies that all plants must be nourished with brown dough, because brown dough has what plants crave, electrolytes. Everybody knows this is true. If you don't know about what?
Brown dough.
Brown dough. What did I say?
Brown dough.
Okay. If you don't know what Chaz Chop, or if you don't know about Chaz Chop, you're probably still stuck on old COVID-19 news, worried that if you dare gather in groups, you'll be denounced as murderers willing to spread disease. But then came the George Floyd protests, and public health experts who did not want to be denounced as witches decided we may gather as before, even in Chaz Chop. Besides, Chaz Chop isn't some fake country. It isn't some fictional idiocracy like the science fiction movie that accurately predicts America's future, and from which I stole the fake brown dough idea. Chaz Chop isn't a fiction like brown dough. It's a real live nation in the state of Washington, which should soon be renamed because, well, the name Washington triggers so many now, they might as well call it the Republic of Howard Zinn. Which, by the way, Howard Zinn, you know who he is, right? He's a political author. He's an author of politics. I can't remember the name of the book, but high school, my junior year of high school of AP history, one of the main textbooks was written by Howard Zinn.
Oh,
interesting. So there you go. Some socialist type of education going on in the public schools back in high school for me. Great. Stay free, Chaz Chop. Never bend the knee to President Donald Trump. Although I guess Howard Zinn was sort of both for and against. It was a complex thing. Trump is the only thing that can screw up this brave new world, so I'm warning Trump and all Republicans to leave Chaz Chop alone. Don't be stupid and send in the military, Mr. President. That would be idiotic, and you'll ruin everything. The governor of Washington doesn't mind Chaz Chop being its own country in the middle of Seattle, as the mayor of Seattle doesn't mind either. Just let Chaz Chop be, so it can prove to everyone how a people can govern themselves with no laws or law enforcement.
Not true. Disinfo. We've got the Seattle superheroes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. See, these people are not informed, these conservative outlets. Just let people live in their natural state and just do what feels right. And let's see what happens. It'll be like Lord of the Flies, but with good coffee. Seattle Police Chiefman Carmen Best said pulling out the police to allow the formation of Chaz Chop wasn't her big idea. She called it, in quote, exercise in trust and de-escalation. A lot of de-escalation talk today. And she's not even the mayor of Minneapolis. Now Chaz Chop may even have its own warlord. There it is again. The rapper Raz Simone, but he hates being called a warlord. The president, quote, the president really put a hit on my head, Simone tweeted. I'm not a terrorist warlord. Okay, but maybe you better change your name to something a bit more nebbishly, like Fielding Mellish, the neurotic character played by Woody Allen in the movie Bananas, which is about a guy who joins the revolution because he's attracted to a revolutionary female. Boy, he goes on for a long time here.
Yeah, I think we get it though. I mean, you only got a little bit more. You can make it.
All right. Okay, where was I?
You got
Yes,
this.
I know Allen has been
in the flow.
Canceled, but Bananas, made before Allen's cancellation, explains so much about Chaz Chop. Mr. Simone, how was declaring yourself king instead? But be a good king. Don't make people kneel like King Joffrey from Game of Thrones. Either way, warlord, Mellish, or king, you must help your people. With everybody in your humid nation already somewhat musky from lack of showers, you must protect the hygiene of the people. In Bananas, the leftist revolution prevailed in San Marcos, and the new presidente made some important announcements. Quote, hear me, I am your new president. From this day on, all citizens will be required to change their underwear every half hour. Underwear will be worn on the outside so we can check. Wise words. Underwear outside the pants for the good of the people. And what about recreation? You can't very well allow the people of Chaz Chop to play American football, which is a violent crypto-fascist game that glorifies the taking of land.
That's true.
It is kind of true. Why did I decide to help Chaz Chop? Because here in America, our old, boring, quote, a republic if you can keep it thing is falling apart. It's not woke enough. We began decolonizing our libraries so that now Americans can't even remember why we started this republic thing in the first place. Hail Chaz Chop! Stay free! And change your name to Freedonia. It's smoother like a good latte. So
there you go.
John
nice
Cass,
little fun. Poking some fun.
Poking some fun and also trying to, I think, make the point of letting this sort of I don't know, brew on its own to see I don't know, to show that this type of thing may not be the best situation.
Well, it's definitely good for the show. I am very curious to see how this is turning out. It seems like every day there's another fun detail that makes however it turns out even that much more exciting. You know, if the military does come in and try to take it back, which I believe the governor and the mayor have both rejected the idea of bringing the military in to take back the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. But certainly we would see what the type of strength that the Seattle superheroes could muster if that were the case. But yeah, there we go. Some good. I did like his point about the good coffee. That's true.
Yeah.
And I do got to say, have you been to Seattle, Gons?
A long time ago. Yeah, I've been there a couple times.
It is a very moist place. The humidity, you kind of forget because it's traditionally kind of cold and rainy up there, and you kind of, you connect humidity with hot places. But it is cold and rainy and humid as all get out. You know, lots of sort of mildew. Anytime you have carpet, it's kind of mildewy up there, at least in my experience.
I went up there and I was very young for some kind of swim meet thing. And we were really excited to go to see the Space Needle, but it was too cloudy, and so it was pointless to go up. So we didn't get to go. And I think we saw some fish markets. Isn't that where they toss the fish? Isn't that up there too? Yeah.
Oh yeah, you hit all the good tourist spots up there.
And one of the things that's been out there is this idea that if you call the police and you're in the zone, then the police won't show up. But this next story,
I triggered everybody in the chat by mentioning how moist it is.
Oh my gosh!
There,
the toilet stuff wasn't enough, but the moist.
Nope, it's the word moist that really got him.
Okay, all right, we got another Chaz story here.
Get in the zone. Capitol Hill Auto Zone. Chaz stinks.
Okay, so here we go. We're coming from the Washington Examiner here. The article is titled, "Business Owner Claims Police Didn't Respond to Calls About Protester from Seattle Chaz Setting Fire to the Shop." Now, this is one of those disputed conversations that's been going on about the Chaz, and I think as we decided last show, I think there's a little bit of everything going on up there. Of course, in the American media, you got to take a left or a right stance, and that kind of determines what you do or do not report. So, we heard about the lawlessness and the taxing of businesses going on. Some of that has been refuted, but we're going to just swing over to this other side here. Last show I mentioned I was given access to a set of pictures that a person walked into the Chaz to see what's going on and took pictures of how peaceful and sweet and nice it is. But we're going to swing around the other side here, and this article is titled, "Business Owner Claims Police Didn't Respond to Calls About Protesters from Seattle Chaz Setting Fire to the Shop." The article reads, "The owner of an auto shop, AutoZone, near Seattle's Autonomous Zone, said his business was broken into and vandalized by at least one protester, but police never answered this many calls to 911. Come on, guys. If you're going to publish something, have somebody take a look at it.
I know. I thought, when I read that, I thought, well, what was the outlet again? And I was like, Washington Examiner. Oh, wow. Okay. Good job.
Yeah, I know.
Man, come on.
A lot of these people, I feel like they just kind of do a stream of consciousness, rambling, and then don't check their spelling or grammar or anything and just hit post. But here we go. The owner of an auto shop near Seattle's Autonomous Zone said his business was broken into and vandalized by at least one protester, but police never answered this many calls to 911. This many. Car tender owner John McDermott told local media outlet Kairos 7 that a person broke into the shop, tried to start a fire, and stole money and car keys over the weekend. The zone, dubbed Chaz or Chop, so that Chop thing is starting to catch on, was established last week following the death of George Floyd in May and declared itself free of police. McDermott said that he and his son, Mason McDermott, tried calling 911 more than a dozen times, but no officers came to the area. The father and son got to the establishment just as the suspect had rubbed hand sanitizer over the store's counter and lit it on fire. They were able to put the fire out quickly. That's very triggering, Gons. You can't be wasting hand sanitizer at a time like this. Do it the old-fashioned way. Get some diesel or something. Moving on. Don't get diesel. Don't do anything. Don't set anything on fire.
Sarcasm, folks. Sarcasm.
Quote, they broke into the building, set fire to the front counter, John McDermott said. I chased him down, and as soon as I came face to face, he came at me, so I put him on the ground, Mason McDermott said, adding that he held the suspect down as his father repeatedly called authorities. At some point, he tried to cut me with a box cutter and showed local journalists a rip on his jeans, he said. The father claimed police at first hinted they would respond to the calls. Quote, I'm told 19 times, he said, of how many times he called. They alluded they were sending someone. Finally, said they weren't going to send somebody. I don't know what to expect next. If you can't call the police department, you can't call the fire department to respond. What do you have? He continued. Heartbroken. I mean, they are the cavalry. Other protesters rushed over. So we got some no abolishing the police in this guy's attitude here.
No.
Other protesters rushed over when they saw the business owners had the suspect detained, prompting them to release the person. Quote, it was either that or they were coming over and it was going to turn into mayhem beyond mayhem, John McDermott said. Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best denied the allegations that her department refused to respond to the calls. Quote, Seattle is not under siege, and we are responding to every call and every area of the city, Best said. On June 12th, however, Seattle police officers reportedly received an email saying they would not respond to calls within CHOP unless a, quote, mass casualty event occurs. The area encompasses the East Precinct, which was abandoned after protesters threatened to burn the precinct down. The demonstrators have also issued a list of demands. Quote, 1, the Seattle Police Department and attached court systems are beyond reform. We do not request reform. We demand abolition. The first demand says. This is no simple request to end police brutality. We demand that the city council and the mayor, whoever that may be, implement these policy changes for the cultural and historic advancement of the city of Seattle and to ease the struggles of its people. A blog post by a user named Free Capitol Hill reads, President Trump has demanded that officials take control of the situation or he will step in. Quote, radical left Governor Jay Inslee and the mayor of Seattle are being taunted and played at a level that our great country has never seen before, Trump tweeted. Take back your city now. If you don't do it, I will. This is not a game. These ugly anarchists must be stooped immediately. Move fast. The good old stooped quote. Stoop it now, says Mr. Trump. So yeah, there you go. So that's
okay.
A report leaning to the side of, yes, the cops are unable to answer all these calls.
Okay, hold on, though, because they missed something that the Cairo 7 local report, like the news report, mentioned, which, hold on, let me see if I can find, sorry, let me try to find the clip at the end, because they mention it at the end of the report here. I'm going to try to... It's interviewing John McDermott here. Let me try to get to the bottom. Sorry.
I asked SPD about this. They emailed me saying they did respond, but the business owners and protesters I talked with say they never saw an officer. I also caught up with Fire Chief Harold Scoggins, who stopped by the business here. He says that when they're inside the zone, they actually need SPD approval before responding, but this business is outside the CHOP or Chaz zone, and so they should have been able to respond, and they're investigating what happened here last night and why no one came.
So you catch that? That this actual business is outside the official zone.
Oh, I did not catch that.
Yeah. So.
Oh, we got you. We got you, Washington Examiner.
Not just Washington Examiner, but just the fact that the police didn't respond, even though they're technically outside the zone.
Interesting.
So,
well, this kind of goes back to what was happening in Minneapolis when the community patrols were put together. It wasn't necessarily that there were no cops.
Come true.
or that the cops got pushed out. It was that the cops were busy with other things and didn't have the time or the manpower to respond to in sort of the normal police duties, which is obviously where the conversation goes when the right is faced with responding to the abolish the police or defund the police demands by people like the Chaz peeps, is that, hey, we need the police because when a protester breaks in and it wastes all my hand sanitizer and then lights it on fire, we're going to have a big problem. So there you go. But very interesting catch that it was not even within the Chaz that this guy's business is located.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe an AI wrote this article, or Emma Colton.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, Emma Colton, the author of this article, needs to maybe watch the report from Cairo 7 News.
It's before. A good place to start is actually watch and partake in the sources that you're using.
Yeah, we're doing, a couple of podcaster video live streamers have to set the record straight with
That's
the
right.
Washington
We're going to
Examiner.
save the world.
Are you going to become a Seattle superhero? I keep wanting to say
wish.
Seattle Supersonics because that's the old NBA team there that doesn't exist anymore.
Ah, good to know.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be my superhero name, Supersonic.
There you go. Well, are you going to turn blue in a hedgehog?
No, I'm going to be a basketball player and fight crime with my basketball of justice, Gons.
Okay. We have a basketball story later today, too.
Don't assume my superhero identity.
Okay. Got it.
All right, what's next?
I call it the super duper missile incredible.
It's the only Trump kind of jingle we have, but it's
super duper.
The super duper. This is Axios.com. Trump signs executive order on police reform. Yeah, so he's actually doing something.
Let's see what he's doing.
Don't think you're going to see this reported on like the lefty news outlets because it's kind of appealing to them in some certain way.
Well, you probably won't see it on the righty news outlets either.
That's true. This is actually very, nonpartisan if you really think about it. But anyway, President Trump signed a modest executive order on Tuesday that encourages limiting the use of chokeholds and moves to create a national database for police misconduct. Why it matters. Top Trump aides recognize that he is under increased pressure to do something to address the mass outcry spurred by the killing of George Floyd. This order, which many lawmakers will say does not go far enough, is intended to send a message that Trump is willing to work with Congress on more meaningful reform. Trump said he had spoken privately with a group of families, many of whom lost relatives to police violence, about the order earlier in the day. He specifically mentioned the families of Ahmaud Arbery, Botham Jean, Antoine Rose II, Jamil Robertson, Tatiana Jefferson, Michael Dean, Darius Tarver, Cameron Lamb, and Everett Palmer Jr. Floyd's family was not present. Those families were not present in the White House Rose Garden for the executive order signing. The president also encouraged Congress to pass its own police reform legislation. Despite the executive order, Trump made clear in his Rose Garden remarks that he is still a law and order president. Quote, "We have to find common ground, but I strongly oppose the radical and dangerous efforts to defend, dismantle, and dissolve our police departments, especially now when we achieve the lowest recorded crime rates in recent history," he said. The president said...
They mentioned sick after he said defend, meaning he probably meant to say defund, not defend. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The president said there are a small number of bad police officers. They are very tiny. They're tiny.
Little tiny police officers.
I use the word tiny. It is very small percentage, but you have them. The big picture, under the order, police departments that meet certain standards outlined by the Justice Department on use of force will be given access to federal grants, a senior administrator official said on a call with reporters on Monday. Departments must ban the use of chokeholds to receive such certification unless an officer is targeted by deadly force. This is interesting because remember the Hairy Legs Biden tweet. We got to end chokeholds. Did you see that tweet?
Yeah, you got to end chokeholds. You got to shoot him in the leg.
Shoot him in the leg. Goes on here. The order must also the order also moves to create a national registry to track police officers with multiple instances of the use of excessive force. The order also includes new programs that would help law enforcement officials better deal with mental illness, homelessness, and addiction, including encouraging departments to involve mental health professionals and social workers to work alongside officers in the field. Worth noting, the order does not address larger concerns about systemic racism and racial profiling in law enforcement. Quote, I strongly oppose the radical and dangerous efforts to... Wait, he already said this. Defund, dismantle... He said defund this time. Maybe they've just fixed it. Dismantle...
Well, that's what I meant. He said it wrong the first time.
Oh, so he wrote it there. Okay.
Right.
Dismantle and dissolve our police departments.
Sounds like we're having a little bit of a connection problem. You're breaking up for me a little bit, and I see in the chat that you're breaking up for them too.
Oh,
just
look at that.
Keep you posted.
Our bit rate is down to 300 kilobytes. So yeah, it's probably pretty ugly. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, looks like we got kicked off
back.
YouTube. So yeah,
we
should be coming back here in a second.
Oh man. Americans know the truth. Without police, there's chaos. Without law, there is anarchy, Trump said. Our thought bubble, Axios. While the president began with a policy message aimed at addressing long-standing calls from civil rights advocates, including by highlighting the database for bad cops, he quickly broke into standard campaign rhetoric by attacking Democrats like former President Obama and hairy legs Joe Biden. And we won't really... I mean, they had to throw that in there that, he got political and started to throw people under the bus. But there you go. Trump signs an executive order on police reform. And I don't know, just based on the article, it seems reasonable to me, some of the things that he was suggesting in the executive order with, trying to teach de-escalation and stuff like that. So I don't really have too big of a problem with
I mean, there does need to be reforms like that. And, the argument there, depending on what side you're on, is reforming the police in one way or another enough? Is that going to be enough, to ban chokeholds and that sort of thing? There was a meme floating around called, what was it called? Something with the number 8. Like there are 8 strategies on how to reduce police killings. It included things like banning chokeholds, requiring reporting on violent incidents, which apparently there isn't now. There's stuff like, doing some verbal announcements before you shoot, stuff like that, that were supposed to take down the incidences of police violence, especially shootings and killings. But then quickly, it only took a couple days of that meme going around in the Black Lives Matter hashtag for then, some real Black Lives Matter activists turning around and saying, no, this is not enough. We cannot reform these. We're not supposed to take police shootings and killings down by 70%. We're supposed to take it to 0. So we got to abolish the police. So even amongst the activists, there's some disagreement into exactly what should be done. But I think this is a good idea for Trump. I think he needs to address the problem. He can't not address the problem. I mean, it's a human problem. Even, the real thinkers on the right, not just, parrots, there, of course, I'm saying there's parrots on both sides, but if you're not a parrot, that we should rein the police in. If you're a small government person, you shouldn't agree with overreach of the police in the first place.
Right.
And I think that's right along the lines of a totally acceptable, even a party line towing Republican thing to do would be to pass. They need to be reined in one way or another. Now the question after that is, what do you do then? Now, this idea, so I had to do some talking with, some Black Lives Matter, adjacent people to really understand this defund the police thing. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important, especially on social media and stuff, that obviously there's not a lot of back and forth, actual constructive conversation going on. And so I had to talk to some BLM people and really tried to get an idea of what this defund the police thing meant. Now, some of them are totally 100% get rid of police. We can police ourselves. So that does exist.
Right.
But the other side of that is, defunding the police is more about, demilitarizing the police, taking away, tanks and grenade launchers and some of the crazy stuff that, police are armed with nowadays, with military surplus vehicles, things like that, which again, if you are a conservative and you're a small government person, you do not want the government having the tyrannical ability to pull out a tank here and there. That's just not cool. So I'm just trying to build some bridges here for a second. But the idea for defund the police would be to take away the funding for things like, grenade launchers and military style, body armor and tanks and things like that, and put that money towards things like, you don't have an armed police officer show up for every single possible thing going on. And much like is mentioned in this article and included in Trump's executive order, a lot of times if there's somebody who seems mentally unstable, as long as they're not violent, you can have a social worker or a mental health professional show up. Not always having to respond with, somebody with a gun or a taser, just somebody who, might be trained a little bit better in those types of situations. And same thing with the homeless. You have a social worker show up. If you just have a small problem with the homeless, you don't always need an armed police officer for every single thing. And I think this is good, even if you are a conservative person, which, everybody knows I tend to lean conservative in most things. And that includes, we don't need to be paying the premium of having a couple cops show up when, a simple social worker or mental health professional could get the job done just as good, free the police up for real crimes, and, avoid any mix-ups as far as training is concerned, and escalating or de-escalating a situation. So I think this is totally reasonable, and I think it's it's telling that it made it into Trump's executive order. Now, will that get any attention from anybody? Probably not. I have a feeling that you're not going to see this a whole bunch on mainstream media, whether conservative or liberal, because the liberals don't want to give an inch to saying Trump actually did something that they agree with. And the conservatives don't want to, make their party seem weak on crime or whatever you want it to be. So
sounds like you want to gamify the situation. Send in level 1, send in level 2. We must escalate to level 3. Release the police.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't think about it that way. That's an interesting way to think about it. But honestly, I don't know if that's the worst idea.
Well, it assumes some kind of, surveillance apparatus to begin with to kind of scope out the situation, and, unless it's reported by someone else. But like if you have a 911 call, it's usually the people answering the phones that determine, how urgent the situation is, right? So maybe those are the people that say, okay, well, level 1 problem, whatever. But I could understand maybe like a glorified mall cop situation. People rolling in on their.
Well, I don't even think you do that. I think there's a triggering that happens when you have someone in a uniform and a badge show up. People don't. Right. A lot of people don't like authority, especially if you're talking about the homeless or the mentally, problematic in one way or another. Yeah, you have somebody who even looks like a cop show up, they immediately will get defensive and could actually escalate the situation. Now, I've actually personally known a lot of social workers. Actually, it's weird. I don't know why there's so many social workers in my life that I know. I'm not their patient or anything, but I'm their friend. And yeah, a lot of those people I would much rather show up in some situations. Now, do I have any good examples right now? Not necessarily. I guess I'm thinking because I'm trying to think of a reason why a cop would come in contact with a homeless person that wasn't, get off my lawn type of thing. Oh, by the way, quick little update. Bike ride homeless village update. Last update I gave a few episodes ago, the police were driving their motorcycles down my bike path, kicking homeless people out. It was almost entirely cleared up. Since then, the homeless population has just about doubled on my bike path. Since its original number. I mean, they're getting very creative on where they can stick tents. So it's about 5 miles of just pure, homeless homes, tents.
Wow, 5 miles. That's a big stretch.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the park that I mentioned, that there's about, I don't know, maybe 15 different little encampments at this park. The grass is entirely dead now.
Oh, no.
I don't know if that's because the city turned off the sprinklers. Actually, that's just occurring to me now. I was thinking what are those people doing? Killing the grass. But now that I'm thinking about it, maybe the city just turned off the sprinklers as to not, cause a rainstorm on them 2 times a day or whatever. But there you go.
Maybe they should do it one time a day, so at least they get a free shower out of it,
So I was gonna say that might actually be welcome.
Yeah.
But they're by a river, so they get a bunch of baths whenever they want, anyways.
Baths
so,
and
anyways,
baptisms.
so back to the point at hand, which was this whole defund the police. Now, of course, abolish police is totally different. But when I actually got into a conversation with some hardcore type of Black Lives Matter people, that's what they came back at me with. So at least there are some real, actual solutions being considered rather than just kind of the broad defund the police, get rid of the police. We'll just have Raz the warlord police us all.
Or the Seattle superheroes. I guess the opposite side of that,
right?
You're saying that, the police triggers the situation sometimes, depending on who you are, depending on what side of a crime or a situation you're in. Because if you're waiting for the police to help you out and a social worker shows up, you might be like, come on, I need a little more. I need a little more here, But
sure.
Anyway.
Yeah. And of course, it all depends on the situation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, of course, at the end of this article, it mentioned how Trump went ahead and slammed Democrats, especially Obama and hairy legs Biden.
I love how they make such a big deal about that. When
they have to.
Pelosi or Biden can't complete a thought without slamming Trump.
I know.
As if Trump slamming them is, some sort of audacious act.
So we have a hairy legs update.
Ooh. Got hairy legs. Got hairy legs.
I love that. It's a NewYorkPost.com article. You want to do this one, Basil?
I will. Actually, somebody in the YouTube chat had a good idea, Gons. Maybe something to consider putting the Twitch link in the YouTube stream description. Sounds like some people want to make the switch over to Twitch. So if you want to drop the Twitch link in there, that would be great. Numbers are actually kind of low. Interesting. Numbers are high over on YouTube and numbers are low over on Twitch. So if we could get some of you guys to switch over to Twitch, that would really help us out, keep our average up here. All right, let's talk about Mr. Hairy Legs. This is from NewYorkPost.com, so take it for what you will. But the article is titled, now, last episode we talked about a whole nother aspect of the Biden problem, the Biden family problem, which is, obviously Hunter Biden mixed up in a lot of corruption in Ukraine. And then what's his other brother's name? Not Joe, Frank or something, whatever. Biden's brother.
Killing people.
Drunk driving incident, killed a guy and orphaned a couple of kids 20 years ago and was ordered to pay $1 million and basically has been running from that responsibility for 20 years. And Joe Biden trying to make excuses for him. That's not good. But now there's something else, Gons. It just doesn't end. I think somebody had a whole lineup of stories to hurt Biden here to be released this week. This one came out the 13th. The article is titled, Ukraine Busts $6 million Bribe Scheme for Gas Company That Hired Hunter Biden. Now, many of us are aware of the Ukraine gas company Hunter Biden issue that alleged bribing and all sorts of nasty stuff. But here we actually have a bust. And the article reads, Ukrainian officials seized $6 million cash bribe, the largest in the nation's history, in a case linked to the founder of Burisma Holdings, which is the gas company that gave Hunter Biden a seat on its board of trustees. The bribery case has no connection to Vice President Joe Biden's son, Ukrainian investigators said Saturday at a press conference that revealed the scheme. Okay, so we just got to make sure to mention that right off the top. Just happens to be the same company mixed up in a bunch of bribes and schemes with Hunter Biden. But this particular $6 million had nothing to do with him, allegedly. Mm-hmm. The millions in American $100 bills they put on display, wrapped in rubber bands and held in clear plastic bags, was intended as a payoff to two top anti-corruption officials, according to the Kiev Post. 3 people, including a current and former tax official, have been detained. Ooh. The suspects, all associates of former ecology minister Mykola Ziochevsky, allegedly used the money as a bribe to stop a state probe of an embezzlement plot that has driven Ziochevsky into exile. Ziochevsky, a crony of Ukraine's scandal-scarred ex-president Viktor Yanukovych, is the founder of Burisma, which was at the center of the impeachment case against President Trump earlier this year. It also figures in an ongoing Senate probe into whether Hunter Biden profited off of his father's foreign policy role. During the Obama administration, Joe Biden was in charge of U.S. policy towards Ukraine at the time his son was hired to sit on Burisma's board. And just to mention, Hunter Biden had no experience in gas companies whatsoever, but got hired to sit on the board of Burisma, Ukraine's biggest gas company, for like $1 million a year or something, to do nothing but sit on the board. Quote, let's put an end to this once and for all. Biden Jr. and Biden Sr. do not appear in this particular proceeding. Nazar Kolodnitsky, head of anti-corruption investigation at the prosecution service, said Saturday. So there you go. They want to make sure that you know that Hunter Biden's not involved. Now, I think this had the opposite effect. I know it had the opposite effect for me, because even though they're saying, Hunter Biden's not involved in this particular corruption issue, they mention his name like 4 or 5 times in the article, which, you talk about some neurolinguistic programming and some, just the power of connecting a name with an incident. Naming Hunter Biden by name 4 times in an article and then trying to say that he's not involved is not the best way to do that. And so I actually think that this, whoever the writer and the editor of this publication is, I think they really do want to connect Hunter Biden to it, but they don't want to get sued for libel, and outright come out and say it. All you got to do is mention his name 4 or 5 times in the article and, officially say that it has nothing to do with him, but already you've made the connections in people's brains, and that's long lasting, let me tell you.
Wasn't the New York Post a little bit more leaning right anyway?
We've seen, that's my expectation. They don't say it on there. A lot of these places will say, the right news on the right side of history because we're right. The New York Post doesn't quite do that, but
we should probably just pick that up as our thing. People think we're right wing, and there you go.
No, I think ours should be like, we're not right, we're not wrong, we aren't left, but we sure aren't right. And
wow, just confuse everybody
and find Jesus. Yeah, well, that's what
he's not the author of confusion, Basil. That's a horrible idea.
Oh no,
I rebuke your idea.
I thought it was quite clear. We were letting people know where we stand. People always want to know if we're Republicans or if we're Democrats.
Yeah.
Anyways, there you go. The Burisma story continues.
There you go. Yep. And Joe Biden's son was not involved. He wasn't involved.
Hunter Biden
was not involved with this. But he wasn't involved, just to make sure.
He was involved in this other thing, but not in this one.
Not in this
Biden,
one.
Hunter Biden.
Not this. Okay. All right, quick break here. We have a pretty interesting announcement to make, don't we?
Yes, we do. We've got some announcements to do. Now, remember, don't go anywhere, anybody. After the break.
We got to get to the Boogaloos.
Yes, after the break, we're going to be talking about the Boogaloo crew. We're going to be talking about Google forming an alliance with the governments. We got NBA snitches and a little bit of 4 horsemen of the technocalypse. So you're going to want to stick around. But before that, let's take a little break.
It's break time. Come on, take a break.
Okay, so Gons, let's start out with the normal break stuff.
Sure.
So I got a couple Twitch followers to thank. Are you ready?
I am ready. Yes.
Okay, here we go. We got Cooper512 ATX. Thank you very much for following us over on Twitch. We've got Observer. There you go. Observer, yeah. This one's great. Daddy Fauci, the real one. We got Daddy Fauci, we got Mommy Fauci, and we got Daddy Fauci, the real one.
Nice.
I don't know. We got the
whole Fauci family here.
I love our Twitch followers, man. These names are so funny. Save 88 Grace. Okay, maybe no. Okay,
that's the
took
name.
Me a second. Yeah, it's okay, maybe no. Very funny. We got Trolladier 69. We got Chow Chowie. And those are it. Those are our new Twitch followers. They joined during the show. So welcome to the show, everybody. I'm still confused. The numbers on Twitch are a little low and the numbers on YouTube are enormous. So we're glad everybody's here. Bigger than usual. Yeah.
Is it really?
Yep. Now, of course, I want to remind everybody that this show goes on the value for value model. What does that mean? Well, usually when podcasts and different content creators, get to a certain level, as we have been for a while, you start getting a lot of emails about people wanting to advertise on your show, so you can start making a little bit of money. We made the decision long ago, even though we've had some pretty big advertisers want to advertise on the show, and we decided long ago, against the best advice of our accountants, that we didn't want to do that. We didn't like the model of gaining your trust, gaining your attention, and then turning around and selling all of that for our own personal gain. Now, will we be like that forever? I hope so. But we can only stay in that model because of listeners just like you helping out with the value for value model. What does that mean? Well, we put out the content, we put out some value, and if you get any value, you then have the opportunity to return some value into the system, keeps the show going, grows the show, makes things better, and gets to feeds. You help feed Gons's ever-growing nest of children he has over there. They just got to keep eating. And of course, Gons has a new son on the way. So, consider that when we talk about this value for value model.
You make it sound like I have a huge...
You've got a brood. You've got the beginnings of a brood, Gons.
That's true. It's probably going to end after the boy, but
you never know. You never know. It's not up to you.
That's true.
So there you go. So if you get value out of the show, whether this is your first episode or 10th or 100th, we've been doing this for almost 10 years. So you've got a lot of material to get access to. And if you find value, please consider putting some value back into it. And this is the opportunity that we take to thank the people who put value back into the show. And they're not just listeners. At that point, if you help pay for the show, you are a producer of the show. There's a couple ways of doing that. You can head to patreon.com/ccnt is one way. And Gons, I'm a little disappointed to say, to let you know, and you're going to have to break this to your children one way or another. We have had 0 new pledges on the Canary Cry News Talk Patreon account, so that makes for a short segment there. I know, it's very sad. Now, we do have the patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio Patreon account. And again, not great. We had a deletion, which is sad. But we did have 2 new producers come on board. Are you ready to hear about them, Gons?
Yes. Give me.
All right. We got Ray. No, we don't. Dang it. Sorry. I messed up. Taylor is the new producer.
Yeah, forget Ray. Taylor. It's Taylor. It's all about Taylor.
Sorry, Ray. Ray has better things to do with their money. That's okay. We get it. And then we have Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you guys for the support. You are some new producers of the show, Taylor and Kathy. We appreciate that very, very much. And now here's the thing, folks. If you don't like Patreon, of course, a lot of people don't. We totally get it. That gives you the opportunity to head over to canarycryradio.com/support. canarycryradio.com/support. That's right, canarycryradio.com/support. We got PayPal options. You can sign up for a subscription over there on PayPal using your credit card or PayPal account. Or if commitment is not your thing, which I totally get it, you can make one-time donations over there as well. And Gons, do we have any producers coming in with one-time donations?
Yeah, so we have a couple people here. We got a handful of recurring, so thank you for all the recurring supporters on PayPal. But we have a payment that came in from Benjamin, so thank you, Benjamin.
Thanks, and Benjamin.
Also from Peter. So Peter also coming in.
Thank you very much, you two.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. You are now producers of the show. You can tell your friends, tell your family. They'll think they'll know that you're a big shot Showtime guy.
Yeah, you contribute to a pod. You can say you're a podcast producer.
Ooh, podcast producer. That's right. We should, you know what we should do? We should make some buttons or maybe ID cards for Canary Cry Radio. And, when you become a producer, you get your Canary Cry Radio producer card.
Yeah. Good idea.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
We need somebody out there to help us with that because that will go on the long list of things that we need to do and will take us a long time.
Yes. Okay. So I'm getting short on time, but we should definitely do this announcement here. So
we should. Okay.
Let's do it.
So here's the thing, folks. Do you want me to do it or do you want to do it?
You can do it. We'll just get into the situation when we get there. But yeah, go ahead. Explain what's happening.
Okay.
People are wondering.
Here's what we're going to do to further the value for value model that we value so much. We think it's the right way to go. We think the content producing for advertisement purposes is one of the reasons why the world and the internet is in such bad shape as it is. Now, a lot of you have heard us talk about, and we both listen to and admire a podcast called The No Agenda Show with John C. Dvorak and Adam Curry over there. We reference that show a few times a month, maybe. And they are really one of the fathers of this value for value model in a real structured way, which is really cool.
Pioneers in that regard.
What's that?
Pioneers in that regard.
Yes, pioneers. That was the word I was looking for. Pioneers of this value for value model, as well as a lot of other things. Adam Curry being
the podfather.
The actual podfather, one of the creators of the RSS feed, if not the creator. And they, on their show, they do the value for value model, and they have this great thing called the No Agenda Roundtable. It's like a peerage, like knighting and daming, which is when people make not just one-time donations, but when their donations to the show reach a certain level, they then become a knight of the No Agenda Roundtable, which is really cool, really fun. Gons, you and I are both knights of the No Agenda Roundtable. I'm Sir Basil, knight of the Wormicorn, and you are Sir Gons, knight of the Samurai Babies. Right. So it's very fun. And they've got all sorts of fun things attached to that. And so we've been in contact with Adam and John here and there, and we have decided we will be emulating that same system, or at least creating our own little version of it, which is super fun and exciting, especially for those who are generous or consistent givers to the show. And this is just a great way to thank them and recognize them and let everybody know about how cool they are. Am I missing anything, Gons?
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to the No Agenda show, and some people have said that even some of the things we've talked about, oh, you're just ripping him off. With this particular thing with the roundtable, they encouraged people to rip them off exactly the way they do it. And I even we asked Adam if it was okay, and he wants people to model it from the way they do it. So that's kind of what we're going with this one. So
they are propagators of this idea that advertising should not rule what goes on in an independent media platform such as us. Because if you and I were to get advertisers involved in what we're doing, you start walking a dangerous line. You start sort of being really careful. You don't want to say anything that's not brand safe. Right. You gotta worry about them pulling their support, and when that's directly connected to feeding your kids, then there's an issue of integrity there.
Yeah,
and everybody knows that a lot of advertisers certainly would take issue not with just what we say. I would say we are pretty good at being pretty balanced, but even touching on the topics that we touch on would be a big no-no for a lot of brands. So that's why advertising doesn't work. It only works when the listeners of the show, and it's Adam described it as a tribe. It's tribal media. It's groups of people banding together to keep independent media going, and it's the only way to truly keep the integrity of independent media. So that's what we're doing, and we are pretty much just going to lift the No Agenda roundtable concept directly, and then from there we're going to kind of let it evolve in our own way. So we're just going to start with that system, and then as we grow and as people respond to it, and as we continue, we're just going to let it evolve in its own natural way. So there we go. And you guys, as not just listeners, but again, producers of the show, you get to have a say in that. We'll be listening. If you guys like the system, or if there's things we should add or subtract, we're going to be doing that. Now, Gons, real quick, while I stall for a couple more seconds, I sent you some text in our messaging app on your phone or your desktop.
Oh yes,
and I did see that. I need that to be copied and pasted into the doc so I can read it out loud. Okay. For later on. So here's the thing, folks. So we're going to start out, like I said, along the lines of the No Agenda concept. And so for listeners, over the almost 10 years that we've been doing the show, there are a few listeners who have met or exceeded $1,000 of support, which is incredible and generous, and part of the only reason we're able to keep going doing this show. So that's where we're going to be setting the line for now. Producers who have given the amount of $1,000 or more will become knights or dames of the Canary Cry Roundtable. Woo! Ooh, exciting.
Fancy.
I know. Yeah. And so there's a couple things with this. Gons, you and I, we have very limited accounting ability.
Yes, very poor at accounting.
For individuals, I sent you a couple there. There should be a couple. Oh, you did. Okay. It's just hard. was it PayPal? PayPal doesn't keep records for very long. We only have 2 years of records from PayPal. So, we tried to pick out and contact the people who had given $1,000 or more over the years. There's a few of them, and we'll be knighting and daming them over the next few episodes. But if you believe that you have hit that threshold in support, just send us the accounting, whether it's just forwarding us your PayPal receipts or Patreon receipts or whatever. Let us know, and it's on the honor system. We'll check it best we can, but it's really honor system deal. So if you believe you've hit that threshold, let us know, and we will knight you on the show, much like we're gonna knight somebody right now. Gonzo, are you ready?
Do it.
Okay, so first of all, for today, we are starting out our roundtable with not a knighting, Gons, but a daming. Ooh, the ladies starting it out.
The ladies come first.
That's right. So we have a very special listener who has supported us over the years. Let me see, pull this stuff up here. On Twitch, she is known as Island Girl. And she has this is going to be our first time doing this, so we'll get better at this as we go. But I want to ask Island Girl Lynn to come up to the round table for your knighting. And of course, Gons, knighting and daming would not be complete without some swords.
Are you going to pull out your sword?
Here's my sword. Let me get this out here. Very good.
Excellent.
Yes. And you need one? Do you have your sword?
I don't really do swords, but I do katanas.
Katana, your person of color. That's right. So, Island Girl Lynn, please take your seat here at the round table for the first ever daming here on Canary Cry News Talk. And so we call up Island Girl Lynn. Please step forward to the Canary Cry Roundtable where we have a seat for you. Thanks to your generous support in the amount of $1,000 or more, we are proud to announce you as Dame Island Girl Lynn. You shall now be known as Dame Island Girl Lynn at the Canary Cry Roundtable, where we have the belt of truthful truthiness, the breastplate of righteous righteousness, the custom-fit Birkenstocks to carry forth the gospel of peace, the shield of ferocious faith, the helmet of substantiating salvation, the supernatural sword of the spirit, and of course, adorable samurai babies, infinitely cute kitties for cuddling, and if you're hungry, we have some fancy feast wet food, and of course, fried wormicorns. Welcome to the Canary Cry Knights and Danes Round Table, Dame Island Girl Lynn. Thank you so much. And I contacted Island Girl, Dame Island Girl now, and I want to read a little message that they sent. She says, Canary Cry has been a continuation of my growing up, being raised in the music industry, interested in politics, way too young, and developing an ongoing love of all things broadcasting and news filled. I'm hooked, so I send best wishes to my buddies Gons and Basil, the absolute best part of Canary Cry, and the most dedicated, amazing brothers I could ever have. Love, Island Girl 21. So thank you
Dame
so much.
Island Girl.
Dame, yes, that's right. Dame Island Girl 21. Very happy to have her as our first daming on the show. So there we go, Gons. We did it. We officially have started the Canary Cry Roundtable, and we have some more knightings that will come in episodes to come. And if you out there, dear listener, believe that you have hit that $1,000 threshold over the 10 years, you just send us an email, let us know. We'll check it out. And for those of you, I have looked at the Patreon list and the PayPal list. There are a lot of people who are very close to that amount. So people will be coming in, and it's going to be great. So there we go. Anything else to wrap that up, Gons?
I think that's it. I think we pulled off the first one fairly decently. So
I think we did okay.
Kind of proud of ourselves for doing that.
I know. We've been talking about doing this for a while. It's a very cool system. And so there we go. All right.
Excellent.
Let me look at our notes here.
I got to be
PayPal,
out in about 20 minutes flat.
20 minutes.
Yeah, so we got to run through these fairly quickly here, but let's
good.
Start this off.
Did you ever have the feeling that you were being watched?
This is dailymail.co.uk. U.S. government is using Google as a mass surveillance tool, and user data requests that have increased by 510% since 2010, according to report. With the longest title, or longest headline, as usual, Daily Mail.
Daily Mail, they pretty much put the whole thing in the headline.
Yeah, and I'll read a couple paragraphs here. It says that the U.S. government is using Google and social media sites like Facebook as mass surveillance tools. Nothing new there. As user data requests have dramatically increased over the past decade, a new report reveals. ProtonMail, an end-to-end encryption email firm, found requests to Google increased by 510% since 2010, and requests to Facebook rose 363% since 2013. The team also notes that in just 2019, Google received 157,435 user data requests worldwide, and Facebook received 269,492. The Freedom Act passed by Congress in 2015 hindered the National Security Agency's ability to collect massive amounts of data, user data. However, it does not stop private corporations from doing the agency's dirty work. So that's pretty troubling here. I mean, it's not surprising, but when you put numbers to it, you kind of see how much the government and operations, private companies like Google are getting more snugly with each other. They're getting more and more involved with one another.
And it's crazy because over the years, there's been so many, I wouldn't call them leaks, but reports and
whistleblowers,
shunnings and whistleblowers. And there's even been strikes at Google.
Yeah.
Employees striking because of the integration with government for surveillance purposes. Obviously, Google is sort of the biggest player. If it's at least one of the biggest players, if not the biggest player in the Big Brother mechanism that we've seen developing over a number of years, and yet they just keep going, and not just keeping going, but increasing these really unfortunate practices. Now, I can't say that I am surprised, but it's disappointing. You'd think they would learn something.
Yeah, and especially, the whole Trump fighting the deep state thing. It seems like, given the situation we're in now with looting and all that kind of stuff, it's very easy for the government to just be, or, the Trump regime to be like, hey, Google, hand over the data. We need to figure out who's the ones not behaving, that kind of thing.
Well, and you got to remember, too, of course, Trump is part of the issue, if not the head of the issue, but a lot of these are the intelligence agencies, the actual FBI, the CIA, things like that. It's not necessarily that Trump is getting an email list filled with, all the people on the blacklist, the no mask fly list, but the FBI, the CIA, NSA, intelligence agencies from 14 different countries. Also, it's not just the U.S. Right. This is a worldwide problem. Yeah. And they just don't seem to be learning their lesson, Gons.
Well, it's partly our fault, too, for continuing to use the platforms.
Hey, that's not my fault. I'll put that on somebody else. I guess we do still use Gmail, so we're not innocent. But
no, we're not innocent.
All right. So in the interest of your time here, let's just keep moving.
All right. Race wars. I've warned you and warned you and warned you.
warned you and warned you and warned you. So, Gons, have you worn a Hawaiian shirt recently?
Not recently.
Well, good, because you're a person of color and you shouldn't be racist.
Don't want to be racist.
Now, I've seen I saw some images floating around and some articles mentioning something called the Boogaloo movement. Have you heard of this? Have you looked into this?
I did, and I actually mentioned it to you I think it was probably a few weeks ago, and I was like, hey, have you seen the thing about the Hawaiian shirts? You should be concerned about this, and you blew me off. You were like, whatever.
It didn't even occur to me. I don't think I fully was comprehending what you're saying, but this is an article from firstpost.com headlined, "From Social Media to U.S. Streets, Boogaloo Movement Makes Its Presence Felt During George Floyd Protests." I don't know if I have any info on this outlet, but we'll just see how it reads. As protests against police brutality and racism draw lax in the U.S. despite the coronavirus pandemic, movements like the Antifa and Black Lives Matter have been blamed for incidents of violence witnessed during these gatherings. Often seen wearing Hawaiian shirts, carrying guns, and seemingly set on starting a civil war, followers of the pro-gun and anti-government Boogaloo movement have also been seen at the protest. On Monday, a Texas bodybuilder arrested for running a steroids trafficking ring was found to have been publicly associated with the movement. He had used his social media accounts to advocate vigilante guerrilla warfare against the National Guardsmen patrolling Black Lives Matter protests, Fox News reported. In another incident on Friday, a U.S. Air Force sergeant wrote the word boog and the phrase "I became unreasonable" in blood on the hood of a car shortly before being arrested on accusations of shooting dead a sheriff's deputy in California's Santa Cruz. He was also accused of throwing lit pipe bombs and shooting at other deputies and planning to kill more, Reuters reported. On 30th of May, the FBI arrested 3 individuals, all with U.S. military experience and associated with the Boogaloo movement. On the way to Black Lives Matter protests, they had in their possession Molotov cocktails that they were allegedly planning to use at the protests in Nevada, Las Vegas. While President Donald Trump has repeatedly singled out Antifa, movement of primarily leftist anti-authoritarians, as a major instigator of the unrest, the term does not appear in any of the federal charging documents against 53 individuals accused of looting and violence at protests held after George Floyd's death on 25th of May, a Reuters report said. Wow, that's the longest sentence I've ever read. The documents mention only one group, the Boogaloo movement, the followers of which are largely an assortment of right-wing extremists, according to hate group experts. The movement began on the internet, but is now spilling onto the streets of the United States. The name was derived from a 1980s film, Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo. The Boogaloo movement originated largely on 4chan's K forum, where users discuss weapons and guns. The term Boogaloo has been used on the forum since 2012 in reference to Barack Obama's re-election causing a second civil war, according to Reuters. However, among the recent protests this year, where supporters of the movement were seen... What? Hold on. However, among the recent protests this year, where supporters of the movement were seen was in January in Richmond, Virginia, at a rally against the state's attempt to bring in more...
What is really bad grammar?
Really bad. Man, it's another AI writing this or something.
We've either exposed the AI or just everyone's inability to check
Everybody's
their work.
Just rushing, man, not reading what they're writing. It's really making me aggravated. Boogaloo followers hold a resentful approach towards the law enforcement specifically and believe the government would resist access to firearms. See, the Boogaloo movement and the BLM people both have something in common. They have a resentful approach toward law enforcement. They should be teaming up. They believe in an accelerationist ideology, which entails disorder between the people and police to cause a breakdown of the political system. Again, I guess they do have more in common with Antifa than people want to...
Remember, it's a circle. It's a circle. The further apart you go, right, left, you end up right together.
Controlled opposition.
It's a circle, yeah.
By April this year, an advocacy group called the Tech Transparency Project warned that Boogaloo followers were discussing taking up arms while promoting protests to liberate states from coronavirus restrictions, according to Reuters. The group that tracks tech companies had reported on 22nd of April that Boogaloo groups are especially active on Facebook, where at least 125 operate. That's it? Only 125?
125.
What? I thought this gave me the...
impression...
impression, that there was much more of them. So there's only 125. More than half of those groups have been created since January. I guess it's 125 groups. Okay. Additionally, it was found that tens of thousands of people joined Boogaloo-related Facebook groups over a 30-day period in March and April. Reddit shut down several Boogaloo-related communities in February and another set in May for inciting or glorifying violence. On 1st of May, Facebook banned the use of Boogaloo and related terms when they accompany pictures of weapons and calls to action. It decided over a month later that the platform will no longer recommend such groups to members of similar associations, making it more difficult to find these groups. Terms like Boogaloo Boys with an I, Big Igloo, and Big Luau then emerged to evade scrutiny. In a 27th of May memo, the Department of Homeland Security raised concerns that domestic terror groups could target the protests, including allegations from the FBI that, quote, a white supremacist extremism Telegram channel incited followers to engage in violence and start the Boogaloo by shooting in a crowd. Vox reported. Far-right militias and Boogaloo-related groups were present at 40 protests against police brutality and Floyd's death, Institute for Research and Education on Human Rights found.
Okay. I think we kind of get it. The bigger point here, yes, it's and there was actually a guy that was related to the Boogaloo Boys that was, I think, arrested or something for one of the murders of somebody at one of the rallies.
There's actually only 2 more paragraphs, and I believe that these actually might be important. So let me hit these real quick. Whether Boogaloos hold a white supremacist or white nationalist approach remains unclear. The movement's members have showed up armed to protect stores from protesters on the one hand, while some of the most popular Facebook pages have celebrated the agitation against George Floyd's death, The Guardian reported. Claims that the group travels to various states to join protests are also unfounded. Of the 57 people arrested in Minneapolis on 30th of May as protests against police brutality turned violent, 47 provided Minnesota addresses, while only 10 were from other states. The Washington Post reported. A U.S. intelligence assessment released last week, too, said that most of the violence at the protests appears to have been driven by opportunists, but the assessment also said there was some evidence that organized extremists were tied to violence or promoting it online. So they do this whole article talking about how the Boogaloo Boys are racist white supremacists and wear Hawaiian shirts and shoot people, and then end by saying, well, we're not sure if they're white nationalists. It is not really clear, and we're not actually sure if they travel from place to place to these protests. So really deceptive and annoying article from First Post here, but it kind of seems interesting because there's a lot. It's the same anti-establishment mentality to like Antifa or some Black Lives Matter people when it comes to law enforcement. But it seems like this white nationalist thing and the thing that they travel from state to state are totally unfounded and are not, I don't know. It just seems like people are jumping to conclusions here. What's the deal?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like another weaponized kind of group. Who knows if it's even like a natural, organic type of thing. Yeah. This type of stuff could be spun up by the military industrial complex.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
It seems almost exactly like the same game plan and sort of community building that we saw with the rise of Antifa.
Yeah, and I think
it's just controlled opposition on the other side.
I think the Hawaiian shirts thing is a direct attack on you.
It is. I'm triggered. I feel triggered about that. I love Hawaiian shirts.
Especially on Joyspiracy Theory, a lot of the imagery concerns Hawaiian shirts, like cats wearing Hawaiian shirts and stuff.
Yeah,
They probably listened to our show, saw that you liked Hawaiian shirts.
Picked out the Hawaiian shirt thing.
And
just
they thought,
as a personal war against Basil, making Hawaiian shirts.
Attack on Basil.
I don't like it.
You were targeted and hijacked.
I don't like it at all. Yeah, I'm very uncomfortable with this. Now, if I wear my one of many Hawaiian shirts out in public, people are going to get the wrong idea.
It's just another way to
profiling, man.
Yeah, no more Hawaiian shirt Fridays for your businesses there. Because somebody's going to be like, oh, you guys are all supporting what right nationalist, whatever,
Yeah, see, that's the sucky part about where our country's at, is that these sort of simple things become signals for the population at large to get a whole idea about somebody. Now, if I wear a Hawaiian shirt, people are going to think I'm a Boogaloo boy.
I know. See? Triggered. Everyone's triggered.
I don't like it, man. It's not cool. Well, we'll keep an eye on this. Let's see what the Boogaloo boys are. See if they cause any more trouble. Those who missed it, I actually went to a Black Lives Matter protest a few weeks ago. I did not see any Boogaloo boys.
Very good. Maybe you were the only one. Maybe they saw you in the white shirt without realizing it.
Oh, shoot.
That's why nobody wanted to talk to you.
It's going to get you beat up, man. I don't like that.
Yeah, not a good idea. I'm very short on time, but I'll fly through this article real quick just because we'll save the other two. We have the we have the CERN COVID fertility app that I think needs to be reported on, and Elon's swag like Jagger, I thought was a great article. I think I want to spend more time on that one, so we'll do those.
We'll save it for
at the beginning of the next show. But this one we can throw in as the last article here.
Did you ever have the feeling that you were being watched?
Snitches get stitches.
As you know, I grew up a basketball fan here, and they're getting ready to restart the NBA in a bubble down in Florida.
Yeah, I heard about that.
It says here, this is brobible.com. The NBA is installing an anonymous snitch hotline for players to report social distancing violations inside the Disney bubble. Snitch hotline.
For players?
Yes.
NBA players inside the Disney bubble. What does Disney have to do with anything?
So Disney is hosting the NBA, the rest of the NBA season, which obviously came to a halt earlier on. So, but to make sure nobody gets the Ronas, they're keeping all the players in one location in a bubble and all this kind of stuff. And basically it says here the NBA is going to have a snitch hotline whenever they return to play in July. On Tuesday, the Athletics' Shams Charania revealed the guidelines that NBA players must adhere to while staying inside the Disney bubble. And there's all these rules here, blah, blah, blah. And the NBA hopes players can police themselves.
Yeah, of course.
And have set up an anonymous
police
hotline.
Each other.
Police, themselves, each other. And it's just setting a precedent for a really, again, the panopticon is really at play here because now you have NBA players, watching, basically policing one another. And
this opens up a lot of issues too for kind of sabotaging other teams. You're gonna go play another team, and you day before you give a call and snitch out one of their star players, and boom, you got the upper hand.
Yeah, we're gonna have the snitch game, the snitch wars, unspoken wars.
Oh dang, snitch wars! Nothing but snitch wars. That's
snitches get stitches.
That's a jingle for you. Okay, I love it. Are you good, Gons? We need to get
out
of here.
Yeah, I gotta cruise out.
I'm gonna just run through the end of show here. Remember, folks, we got the playlist at the end of the show. Stick around because we got some great pieces of music created by listeners about and for the show. So stick around. They're very funny, very good. But I want to remind everybody, we got our new Canary Cry Roundtable. We are continuing our value for value model, and so please remember us. We will be we put out shows 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This Friday is our next show. I saw some questions up on the chat there. Sometime between noon and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Keep an eye out for your notifications. If you follow us on YouTube, go follow us on Twitch and turn on notifications as well, because you never know when the YouTube notifications will stop coming. Okay, now remember, you can go to patreon.com/ccnt. We didn't have any new producers on Patreon today, so let's hope that changes on Friday. If you get value out of the show, please consider putting some value back in. I'll give you a shout out and thank you on the show. You then become a producer First in line for your Canary Cry producer card, podcast producer card. Now, remember, if financially supporting the show is not in the cards for you, I get it. If you don't got an extra $5 a month to spare, there's other ways you can help out the show. You can create jingles for us. You can create art. You can tell people about the show. If you are a creative person, do whatever you do and send it to us. Jingles, songs, artwork. Send it to canarycryradio@gmail.com. You should leave a rating and a review on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify. Remember, this is a podcast, so if you missed the live show, subscribe to the podcast and you'll get the better version of the show. The sound quality is much better.
Sound quality version, yeah.
And it's there forever. And you can send the show to somebody else. Y'all have friends and family in your life who are getting their news from the mainstream or their Facebook feed. Send them an episode. Word of mouth is the best way to spread the show and to help wake up your friends and family. And here's how you do it. You walk right up to them, you grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Ask Noah and close the toilet seat before you flush there. Well, thank you guys. Thanks everybody to our listeners and producers for supporting the show, listening to the show. Remember, we will be back on Friday sometime between noon and 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So remember to tune in there. Bring your friends, bring your family, but most of all, bring your open mind, baby. And we'll be back, and we hope to see you back. But until then, remember to think outside the cage.
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up. Leave the bird alone. I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
Don't let me go into the archives and find out what I told you. I tell you something. People call me everything under the sun, accuse me of lying and everything else. I try to give you a heads up. I warn you. And then months later, when I'm right, everybody forgets. I said this months ago. I tried to tell y'all this is what was happening. I tried to tell you heads are gonna roll. I tried to tell you it's chaos. It's a mess. I tried to tell you and nobody wanted to listen. Do y'all hear me now? Is it clear? I tried to tell y'all it's getting ugly. It's a mess. I tried to tell y'all. Nobody wanted to listen. And now you see folks scurrying. I tried to tell you. You know how many times I'll say something months in advance and then it comes to fruition and then y'all forget I reported. See, they're going to have breaking news like it's news. You know what the news was today? I tried to tell you. But nobody wanted to listen.
You are entering a dimension of sound. You carefully come in through the threshold with wonder, yet skepticism. You see the faint shape of an outline of a robot arm petting a cat. You faintly hear the haunting sounds of a man playing a tambourine. The sound augments into two men playing with a soundboard. You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Stay a while and listen.
And now, where Nephilim news meets biblical views, you'll find broken memes and shattered dreams. Give it up for Basil and Gons.
In the future, humans will be confined in a people's zoo.
I'll keep you safe and warm in my people's zoo. I'll keep you safe and warm now in my people's zoo. You, yeah, you in my people's zoo. I'll keep the cameras on.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.